All right. Once again, my name is Sheldon Alt with Concept Agritech. We've got with me today Craig Baraball and also our Director of Agronomy. His name is Bert Riggin. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you guys should be able to see it. Can you guys see it all right?
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. Doing something right. All right. Wanted to give you guys just a quick overview and remind you guys that we are headquartered in Charleston, Missouri. That's where our manufacturing plant is, as well as we do our logistics and laboratory. We also have two other fully operational, up and running distribution centers. One's located in Napoleon, Ohio, and the other one is in Elkton, South Dakota. Currently, right now in Elkton, we've got some bulk totes and package. And in Ohio, we just have totes and package right now, but we'll be adding bulk shortly. Wanted to give you guys a reminder also too that our lab in Charleston is more than happy to do any preseason blend tests for you. We've all seen the slowdown of a blend if you thought it was going to work, didn't work. We want to minimize downtime at the planter. So feel free, give us a shout, give Craig a shout. Let us know what kind of blends, what rates you'd like to do. We'll be more than happy to run that for you and put in the oven and or freezer for that. Also, too, our totes start at 125 gallons. And if you have a blend that you'd like made, as long as the total volume of that blend is over 125 gallons, you'll receive tote pricing on all of those products that are in that tote as well. And that's kind of the same thing that we do for bulk. So if you've got a blend that you'd like to do, as long as that total volume is over 3,000 gallons, you'll get bulk pricing on all of those products that are in there. And as well, all of our prices always include shipping directly to your farm as well. Some of you have heard about this, the MVP program, Market Volatility Protection, something brand new that we came out this year, and we're really excited about. We've had some really good success with this so far, and we developed this, for you guys, for the growers. Downside market protection, lock in the current price card, and 0% finance with Concept Agritech financing. So, in a nutshell, what is the market volatility protection? Well, it's downside market protection. So for every 1% that your chosen commodity price declines, we are going to issue a check to you as a reimbursement for every 1% that crop commodity price declines. So for an example, if the current price of corn was 407 and at the end of the season it dropped down to 366, that's about, a little over a 10% drop in the corn price. And if you spent $100,000 with us at Concept Agritech, you can see how I did the math there. Basically, we'd issue a check for $10,000 at the end of the growing season. So it's our way of showing that we really want to partner with you guys and have some skin in the game as well. So I was able to get this extended a little bit for the MACC group. So if you guys are interested in looking into this for some of that downside market protection, please give us a shout. We'd be more than willing to help you out. And also too, what that can do is lock you into the current price card, because I've never really seen commodity prices go up when input costs haven't followed shortly after that, right? So we're doing everything we can to partner with you guys to show you that we are really here to help, in kind of a challenging time, right? And also wanted to share our 0% finance with Concept Agritech too. Big difference here is a true 0%, and it's not due until January 15th of 2026. So giving you guys a lot of extra time there. JDF and Rabo expires, I think, in December. So we want to give you guys an extra month and even push out even further. So um, quick recap of that. Without further ado, I want to turn it over to Bert Riggin, our Director of Agronomy. We wanted to go over a couple products that we have seen work not only really well in the MACC group, but also across the country as well. And Bert does a great job at going deeper into the why behind these products. And the goal behind this is to educate about our products and why we've made them a certain way and how it can benefit you on your farm as well. So, Bert, I'll turn it over to you. Okay.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody. So the first one is Biovac XP. Obviously, Concept would like for you to take a look at biology that we offer, but regardless of whether you're using our biology or somebody else's biology, or you're just wanting to feed the native biology in your soil, Biovac XP is a very good choice to look at. It is a balanced nutritional, not only for bacterium, but also fungi. And in addition to that complex food source, you're also getting our XP component, which is essentially a root stimulant. It works exceedingly well. We've seen it work not only in monocots but also dicots. So this product paired either with your biology of choice or standalone to feed what's in your soil would be a very good product to take a look at because again, it's a diverse food source built for both bacterium and fungi. It's just a very good product to hang around and to utilize. And again, you're getting more bang for your buck because you get the food source as well as the XP component, which is our root stimulant.
Yeah, Kevin talks a lot about wanting to feed the biology that he has currently in his soil. I mean, this would be a great pair for that, right, Bert?
That is correct. Nutrify. It is a product you may have recognized it under another name. Unfortunately, the Raytheon Corporation felt that apparently this product could get confused with their missiles, so we had to rename it. So it's henceforth known as Nutrify. It is a polymer-based technology that aids in the prevention of nutrient tie-up. Now, specifically, it really hones in on phosphorus, but we built this product to actually work with more things other than just phosphorus. Um, Again, the polymer-based technology allows those nutrients that have not been tied up, whether they were a dry nutrient that was applied or whether it was a liquid nutrient that was applied. The polymer technology essentially makes a coating on those nutrients and prevents it from forming insoluble salts. This does not free up any nutrients at all. So if it's already tied up, it's going to stay tied up. This simply mitigates loss of your nutrient dollars from tie up, and which usually happens, in imbalanced soils and things like that. Um, we developed this product specifically to help your fertilizer dollars go farther and help you get more bang for your buck on the fertilizer that you are spending your money on. Of course, everybody knows that carbon's a big buzzword in the industry right now. Um, our offering for that is Carbon RX. We found that in a lot of instances, over time, by adding carbons to the soil, along with um, other things, can really help speed up the natural process that your soils go through when they're trying to move toward balancing themselves. It's a very good source of carbon for plants. You can see the analysis. It's got the humics. It has organic carbon. The big thing that separates Carbon RX from some of the other carbon products that are on the market is the fact that we have some amino acids in there, which not only go toward nutrient uptake but also help plant health and things like that. It's proven to be a very, very beneficial product, whether you put it in furrow or whether you use it in a broadcast form. We do have a higher humic percentage than a lot of other, a lot of our competitors. Um, the other beautiful thing about this product is that it also provides some pretty good buffering against some of your higher salt products that may be going out, whether it's a UAN product or anything else that tends to be a little bit hot. This product provides a little bit of buffering so that you don't wind up with phytotoxicity if it's applied in a foliar type setting. Use rate on it is very liberal. It's gone out at anywhere from a quart all the way up to a gallon or more. It's been a very utilitarian product. It is ultra refined, which is another good thing that separates us from some of the other carbon products on the market. Very small particle size, so you don't get a lot of the fouling of your filters and things like that that some of the other products on the market can cause.
Hey Bert, real quick, could you explain the buffering, why and how does that work, and maybe touch on the CEC value of Carbon RX, if you don't mind?
Sure. So depending on what test you run, the CEC, you can increase the CEC anywhere from, 300 to, almost 1,000%, depending on your soil and what's going on there. But it is the carbon makeup in it that allows the buffering to take place. Carbon likes to try to encapsulate a lot of things, simply because that's the nature of the structure of the carbons. And so what happens is when you get that carbon encapsulation, it can retard some of the negative effects that some of the molecules that carbon encapsulates, specifically when you're talking about phytotoxicity. So it really works well on salts. And of course, all fertilizers are salts. So therefore, when this is incorporated in with whether you're putting them out in furrow 2x2 or whether you're making a foliar application of a nutrient, they're all salt based. So anytime you can provide a little bit, more insulation between the detrimental effects that a salt can have on, young leaf tissue, you're going to be ahead of the game because you're not damaging that leaf and reducing photosynthesis. So it is the carbons that are in this product that really provide that little buffering that you're going to experience.
And also the amino acids in here are plant-based amino acids. Could you touch on why that's so important for the efficiency of the plant?
Sure. So these amino acids are derived from corn steep, um, and it is a very good source of amino acids. You can get synthetically derived amino acids. Molecularly, they're going to be very similar to your naturally occurring amino acids, but the problem with that is since it did not start out as a natural amino acid form, sometimes that uptake and utilization is not as good. So that's why we use, naturally derived amino acids. And like I said, we pull them out of corn steep, which means that it works very well, not only across, monocots, but dicots respond very well to it too, because, amino acids are amino acids.
Any questions so far that anyone would have about certain products that we've covered so far? If not, we'll kind of keep moving and we'll have some Q&A at the end if you want.
All right, sweet success. One of my favorite products that we have. Um, Everybody's familiar. There's been a lot of buzz with introducing sugars into our agricultural environment. They provide tremendous benefit not only for plants but also for the microbes in the soil. Um, our main sugar product, if you will, is Sweet Success. It is derived from blackstrap molasses, but it is cured at a much lower temperature, which means that we are not volatilizing off a lot of the good things that are found in blackstrap molasses. There's proto nitrogen compounds, there's potassium, there's a lot of other good things, whether you're talking about proteins or just all kind of good things that are in it that usually don't survive a higher temperature tempering process. Obviously, Sweet Success is a complex sugar source. It's not just one simple, sugar. There are a lot of products on the market that are a single sugar or maybe just two sugars. And they're usually from highly refined sugars that are liquefied. They're still okay, but having the sugars that are in Sweet Success and the high bricks content make a huge difference in utilization of this product by plants and by the microbes. Um, because of its density, we do have it registered as a drift control agent. And the fact that it is, a blackstrap molasses product, it can be pretty sticky, so it can help also increase, adhesion of particles to leaf surfaces. Um, Anytime you can increase the bricks level in a plant, you're increasing the health in that plant. And we've just found that Sweet Success has done a tremendous amount of good to maintain plant health, especially if there's been an incidence where you've had herbicide injury or you had, not so great weather. Anytime that plant can utilize, you can provide it with something that doesn't have to manufacture with the sun. It's going to take the energy it does create through photosynthesis and shunt it somewhere else. So you can maintain a positive growth cycle in less than ideal weather conditions or even after an injury. Um, it's just an outstanding product. We put together a white paper or a one pager on it that goes into a lot more detail on why Sweet Success is different than other blackstrap molasses that are on the market. And again, like I said, the difference between this and your clear sugars are the fact that you're getting a lot more than just a sugar source. So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck when, on a per application basis.
Go into the bricks level again real quick if you don't mind. I mean, that's something that
Sure.
we did quite a bit this year in all of our concept agritech plots is we took a refractometer and we were measuring bricks levels in the tissue throughout the season. Tell us a little bit what your agronomy team learned from that, Bert.
So like I touched on a little bit earlier, anytime you can increase the bricks level in a plant, um, you increase the health of that plant. Um, a higher bricks level means the plant has energy in reserve because whatever it is not actively using, it can actually store. And so that's where, the measurements came in because we're using a refractometer in order to take a look at the section of the plant where that energy might actually be accumulated. And what we found was where we had higher rates of Sweet Success, applied at planting, foliar, and whatnot. We tended to see that plant was accumulating that. Now, again, it's more than just plant health. By increasing the bricks level in the plant, what you're also doing is you're also providing you some extra protection against piercing sucking insects, specifically insects that taste with their feet. Because when they land on a plant, their feet are telling them whether or not feeding on that plant is a good idea. Insects can only tolerate a narrow range of bricks. It's kind of like the Goldilocks syndrome. If the bricks level is too high, the insect can't digest those sugars. If it's too low, then the insect will have to remain on the plant an inordinate amount of time in order to receive the nutrition it would like to get. So having that Goldilocks being in the middle, that's where a lot of your insects want to be. They can land, they can feed, and they can move on, with minimal exposure to your predators. So by increasing the bricks level to the point to where insects can't really handle the digestion of that amount of sugar, what you're effectively doing is cutting back on predation, from those insects over time. I've seen it. I know a lot of you guys don't fool with cotton, but we first noticed it in cotton, where a lot of the harmful pests that will come in on a cotton field, they do taste with their feet. And by them realizing that they can't feed on it because it's too sweet, they picked up and went to their neighbor's cotton. And the first time we saw it, essentially the plant bug application, the spraying for that was cut over 50% where Sweet Success was being used. The farmer was just doing it because he wanted to add carbon. He didn't have any clue about the insects. Um, and so it worked out really nice. And then we also began to see it in other things like melons, specifically in the desert Southwest. And it was quite eye-opening because the white flies that would basically bring in the vine collapse simply didn't touch the fields where we were adding Sweet Success because they couldn't digest those sugars, and the plant itself was too sweet. So therefore, they didn't land and feed and didn't transmit the virus that caused the devastating loss that some of the neighbors experienced.
Bert, does anybody, do you do testing to know how long a treatment of sugar lasts in the plant?
No, sir, we haven't done testing to that effect. Not to say that we couldn't do that in the future. It's just due to the price point on this and the benefits that our users have seen. Essentially we advocate, especially now with the drift control agent labeling, that Sweet Success go out just about any time you're putting out any other foliar. And we've got people that have been using it for a while. They won't even think about making an application without having Sweet Success in the tank mix. And it's worked out very well. The other thing tying this in, like with the Carbon RX, is where we've seen usage of not only the humic products, but in conjunction with Sweet Success, we have seen the accelerated soil health benefit of that because it not only stimulates your native biology to start increasing the colony and doing a lot more of that work, but it also has done a lot of good as far as providing, even in some cases, flocculation into that soil and better aeration and whatnot. So the combination of something like Carbon RX or Sweet Success has done wonders in helping bring some of the soils that we've been working with, you know, into health a lot quicker. So instead of a 5-year timeline on some of these things that were really bad off, we've seen turnaround, 3 years and under.
Thank you.
Okay. In the past, when people were wanting to make a Sweet Success application, we would recommend that they pair it with our Fulvic Force. And a lot of people had requested that they would love to be able to have both of those products in one jug. And therefore, we came up with Sweet Fulvic. It is a 50-50 blend of our Sweet Success along with the Fulvic Force. It can make life a lot easier, but if you put it out at that, just remember whatever rate you put it out in, like if you put it out at a quart per acre, that means you're getting a pint of Sweet Success and a pint of Sweet Fulvic. So be mindful if you're wanting to get quite a bit of sugar out there, you need to make sure that you do your math on the rate so that you get the amount of sugar that you want. It is a very utilitarian product. It also has the drift control agent, and then it also is a penetrating, surfactant. The penetrating part of it comes from the Fulvic Force component. That is a very good Fulvic source with our Transmax technology. It works exceedingly well to help get things into the plant. If you're wanting to give the plant some extra energy with the Sweet Success component, but you're putting out a fungicide or you're putting something, else out that you want that plant to be able to take up, the Fulvic Force component of it increases the efficacy. You get more into the plant, and therefore, whatever you're wanting to get into that plant can really, you can increase it to the point to where it goes a lot, goes along a lot farther. This product has been used, with things like, glufosinate, Liberty, where people don't want to fool with the AMS. They've used sweet fulvic or used fulvic force, either one, at the appropriate rates in order to make sure that the glufosinate works as needed. It's a very good product. It's seen quite a bit of adaptation since we've released it, and like I said, it gives you the best of both worlds in one jug. Concept S17. Um, we developed this product in conjunction with our Nitrotech technology so that we could offer a more biologically friendly nitrogen stabilizer. Um, it seems that, since the Clean Air Act, we simply don't have enough sulfur floating around in the atmosphere anymore. And for the first time in a long time, we actually are, seeing a lot of sulfur deficiencies. This product can address both issues in one jug. Not only can you stabilize your liquid nitrogen products, but you can also get a very high sulfur return because it is a 17% sulfur in and of itself. The Nitrotech technology is what does the heavy lifting as far as being able to stabilize the nitrogen. It does that through a carbon encapsulation. What we found is that not only will you be able to stabilize your nitrogen, but if you're adding anything like potassium or boron or anything like that in your side dress, application with liquid nitrogen, that the Nitrotech technology can also encapsulate the other nutrients that are in that mix and help prevent volatilization or leaching. The carbon encapsulation is what does both of those. So it really helps reducing the total amount of nitrogen you have to put out because you're not having to compensate for what you would normally experience in loss, specifically if you're in a much coarser soil where you don't have a high organic matter and you don't have a lot of sites for the nitrogen or other micro or other nutrients to grab a hold of. The carbon encapsulation allows that product to actually adhere to your soil particles regardless of the texture and hang around and be more resistant to leaching from water. The volatilization part comes from the fact that it is encapsulated, so therefore it is not just going to, gas off and, when exposed to the atmosphere. The beautiful thing about it is because it's a carbon-based technology, it is friendly to biology, whereas a lot of your other nitrogen stabilizers are not friendly to biology because they basically put out a no-go zone for the biology that is responsible for converting, urea into an ammoniacal form where it can be gassed off. So this is, if you're using biology, if you're paying good money for biology, or you have a good healthy colony in your soil, I would recommend you taking a look at this product for your nitrogen stabilizer and your sulfur source so that you can protect the biology you have and have them not take a hit from some of these other synthetics that are on the market and still be able to, get some good sulfur out there at the same time.
What
What
are
kind of
guys
rate are you
using?
talking about, Bert, to stabilize the nitrogen?
So, I mean, typically, it's 5 to 1. So for every 5 gallons of UAN you're putting out, you want at least 1 gallon of S17. To be honest with you, people that make split applications, what we've seen, regardless of what their total amount is that 5 gallons, minimum 5 gallons during the season, is a very, very good sweet spot, not only for plant health, but also for the amount of sulfur that you're getting in conjunction with it. So if you're making two applications, typically what we'll do is, depending upon which application is the larger application, we'll run 3 gallon at least in that application, and then come back with your second application and add at least another two, so that you're hitting that 5 gallon. But obviously we'd like to stick to that, 1 gallon of S17 for every 5 gallons of UAN to try to maintain the proper ratio.
What are guys using for end stabilizers?
Do what now?
I was just asking the group what
Oh.
other end stabilizers is anybody using? Are they using any?
No, we've been just using humics for most of us.
And you do get some stabilization that way. It simply, for the fact that carbon likes to encapsulate things. I would, if you haven't looked at S17, I would recommend you take a look at it, simply because it's not the Nitrotech technology is specifically designed, so it's going to be more aggressive in that carbon encapsulation than just what you would experience from the addition of what we consider just market humics that are out there. All right, K-Mend, very good product. Even though if you take a look at the label, it says derived from ammonium nitrate and potassium sulfate, we are adding the fact on there that it is also derived from potassium carbonate. The reason why that wording was initially chosen was because it does have a sulfur return on the analysis, and we wanted to make sure everybody knew where the sulfur component came from. But it is primarily potassium carbonate. It's a very, very good source. If you don't know, when a plant brings in any potassium inside the plant, it has to convert it into the carbonate form in order for it to be utilized correctly. So providing the plant the form that it's going to have to be converting the potassium into saves a little bit of energy. And anytime you can help that plant save some energy, it will take that energy and use it somewhere else. This product works exceedingly well. We've had some very, very good use with it. You do see the badge. It says the flavonoid technology. That is, to help with some stress mitigation and help facilitate, nitrogen uptake and fixation. The only thing that I would say, and it is on here, is that it does not like phosphorus. So, if you're going to have phosphorus, that needs to go out, either in infura or somewhere else where you're not going to be putting the K-Mend. K-Mend is very, very gentle. So it can go out infura, it can go out 2x2, side dress, wide drop. It's just a good form of potassium. And it's been a very good product for us. All of our testing that we've done the last 3 years, it's been at the very top as far as response from potassium, soil applied potassium products. So if you're looking to boost your soil applied potassium in a liquid environment, I would suggest take a look at this one, simply because it's just a very, very good product, and our success and our tests over the last few years have borne that out.
Or in challenging soils, challenging as far as high magnesium soils, we get a lot of guys in the group having issues with high mag and potassium numbers in tissue samples not being really where they want them to be. Would this be something that could help that uptake of potassium in high mag soils?
So anytime you can provide potassium, regardless of the form, in the root zone, I mean, in a liquid form, if it's targeted at the root zone, you're going to be able to overcome some of the issues that you can experience in high mag soils. This one is no different. The reason why I would probably recommend this one over a lot of the other products that are out there is simply because it is the carbonate that's going to make the difference, and it will be more apt to be taken up in a high mag environment than some of the other forms of potassium. But that's not to say that you're going to have that much difficulty as long as you're applying a liquid potassium at the root zone, and you've got soil conditions that will allow potassium to be able to be mobile, meaning there's got to be enough soil moisture in there so that the plant can, take it up.
Any other further questions on K-Mend or? All right, guess not. Um, yeah, that's really all we had. We wanted to keep it extremely short and sweet and show you guys, talk about the why behind some of our products and also to the ones that are not only working for the MACC group but all over the country as well. So if you guys are need any questions answered or anything, give Craig or myself a phone call. No problem. We'd be happy to help you out with product questions, or if you're interested in being in the MVP program, that market volatility protection. That's really a sweet deal. It's 0% financing and it's downside market protection. I mean, Kevin, when I spoke with you about it, you were like, it just sounds too good to be true, but I've had some really good success with that, and I've gotten it extended a little bit for the MACC group. So if you guys want to take advantage of that, I mean, it's not going to solve everything, but you rarely ever get a rebate check from your fertilizer company, but we're willing to do that to help you guys out. So,
Any more questions, guys? No. Well, thank you, Bert. Appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Yes, sir. Y'all have any questions, don't hesitate. Reach out to either Sheldon or Craig, or give the office a call, or if you happen to have my number, holler at me. Be happy to help anytime.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Well, we got next now.
Well, I guess I'm going to share just a little bit.
Okay.
Find the slide I want to. So we weren't prepared today to go through an entire product presentation, but I did want to share with you some brand new products that we are coming to market with that has been tested now for well over 4 years, and we're bringing it to market this year. Probably bringing it.
Joe, we can't hardly hear you. You're breaking up.
Well, let me get a closer to the mic. Is that any better?
No.
I don't know what to do about it. It must be on my end with the speaker. Let me switch out the speaker. See if that helps.
Who all's going to Louisville next week?
Probably mostly everybody that's close.
There's a party at Terry's house.
Yeah, yeah. We're having a milk and pizza party.
Shouldn't it be Metamucil and pizza party for you?
Yeah, it could be, could be. Blood pressure medicine for you. Keep your blood pressure down.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Travis, what's the weather up there in your neck of the woods? You guys, I haven't even looked at the weather up there.
Yeah, it's snowing here today, and the wind's just coming up, and we only got 3 inches of 3, 4 inches of snow, and we barely had anything beforehand, so it's not bad by any means, but it's like, oh, winter's back today, and it's gonna be like high like 15, I think. So
Well,
if you guys want to actually come up here, it'd be a lot better in Louisville, probably. Go ice fishing. So.
well, Travis, I hate to say this, but I think it's supposed to be 70 here today.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, well, that would be just a weird. Honestly, it'd be odd to us to have 70-degree weather in March or whatever February, whatever we are. So
It's not real common here either, but we're going to take it.
We
but
had,
all that snow you guys get, is that all going to be gone then?
It's
It's-
gone. It's gone.
Hmm.
we
You
had two
get much
guys
frost?
ice fishing up between Scottsburg and Salem, and they fell through, and it took the fire department to save them. They had a 76-year-old guy that was under the water for 45 minutes. Saved.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like the last 10-ish days have been, 40-ish, give or take. And the last week, we would see online a lot, and you'd hear them on the news or whatever else about guys going in and a lot of the times it was either by heaves or it was like coming right off the dock because of just how the ice forms right there, and it's just I don't know. We like to go, but it's like I don't really need fish that bad. So when it gets to that, when you start hearing that many people diving in, it's like, yeah, we're good. So yeah. Does the ground freeze where you're at, Kevin? Like you guys get frost by much?
Yeah. 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 We get cold. I mean, um, was that 2 weeks ago? We were high about 0.
Yeah. I think when you guys were 0, it was like 30 below here. So,
Yeah.
but then
You
it was
keep that
like,
you keep that shit up your way then.
yeah. Then there was Craig was here last week, and it was actually warmer here than where you guys were. And it was just kind of had that low trough or whatever it is, that low pressure cold system or whatever it is, cold front. And it just hasn't the warm weather didn't come back to you guys yet. It was it was really nice here, but then it was cold as crap down in Florida, so they can keep it. So
Yeah, they're telling us we're going to have another cold spell middle of February, so and snow.
yeah.
So
Yeah, this is kind of like what we're used to. And at this time of the year, it's like if I don't have butt deep snow, we're happy. Yeah.
Well, a good thing for Charlotte, Terry's wife there, she's used to cold weather and shrinking and making.
you speaking for yourself?
Yeah, damn right.
Yeah. Uh-huh. What's the hold up here? We going with Joe now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Joe, you're still muffled.
Can you hear my screen or see my
We
screen?
can see your screen.
Okay, it's still coming across crazy audio.
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know what to do about it.
Never done it, so I don't know what's going on.
Let's see.
Didn't pay the Zoom guy.
That's
All
Might be something with your microphone, Joe, not just picking it up. Oh,
Yeah, that's the one I use all the time with the Zoom meet. I don't know why it's acting up today.
You wore it out.
I guess.
Well,
I've been screwing around with that. I had an update on my other laptop and it just took my microphone right off. It's just like it's not there, and I have no idea how the heck to fix it, other than go through about 10 hours worth of troubleshooting.
well, Joe, if you can't get that fixed, maybe we could come back later or let you work on it and see if you can get it going. If not, maybe next week.
Yeah.
If
let's
it's up
do
to
that.
you.
Let's do that. I want for the ones to hear me.
Okay.
Let me get out of this.
While we got a little bit of time here, are you guys just curious? Are you guys changing any planting corn, soybean acres getting switched or not?
We got a quiet group on today.
We're adding 200 acres of corn on corn. We kind of touched on that last time, but that's just because soybeans they're not consistent enough for us to raise them. Like we'll raise 58, 60 some bushel soybeans and we'll not do much to them, and then the next time we throw the kitchen sink at them and you don't get much out of it, and it's like we're gonna just cut it back and do about as the humic sugars and carbons and the fulvics, and figure that whatever we pull out of there is going to come off our residue and the rainfall, and we'll try to figure out how do they get to that next yield level. But we've came to the conclusion that it's like what you guys are saying, with your soil's not primed right, your high yielding success is not going to be there. And I think there's two different priming, whatever you want to call it, for corn and for soybeans. And we have our corn better, like we're able to actually get that to work, but our soybeans are, I don't know, they're
soybeans.
Yeah. 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 And I thought we learned something, but I learned what not to do. So
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, it's hard to be consistently good with soybeans. They're a pain in the ass. But I don't know. I was just curious if any guys were thinking about changing much on there.
Food for thought. I was in a meeting in Council Bluffs on Saturday with about 170 growers, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas. And there was about 15 to 18% after the survey. They did like a early survey and then showed it at night. There's about 15 to 18% of guys planting more corn. And that was a commodity exchange meeting. They were saying a break even on corn was like $16 in the negative. Soybeans were about 130 based on their numbers for the region. But that, like I said, just food for thought to give a survey of the Midwest. We got a lot of guys that are gonna pile in some more corn for the economics of it, and that's based on a 70, maybe 60, 65, 68 bean bushel cap. Kind of according to Travis, if we could all plant, 80 bushel beans might pay, but we just can't guarantee that in the volatilities we've had with the August heat.
Yeah. All right, Travis, you want to get started? Travis.
well, see what we come up with.
36.5.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my glasses on. How about that?
But pretty good samples.
Yeah, this was the best sample we had this last year, and very similar to like our best last year, is right within a few bushels of each other. And our, it's like, so I thought, well, I know how to, over the years, like we figured out what to do from like the 250 to 280 range, but it's like now the other end of it is like, how do you move into that 350 to 380 range, and like just to keep moving forward and what to look for, because we're moving things in the right direction, I feel. But it's still like what we've improved on, where what are the other things we're having to look at. And it's like try to get a plan together for this coming year, of what we're going to try. Our plan, our fertility plan is really not going to change a lot from last year, on the planter especially. We're going to pull back some nitrogen. We're going to pull back some nitrogen on the planter and on the wide drops, not by a lot, but I think like about like 10, 15 units total. Like this one, all this corn had 120 units last year. And I also think that it could probably go a little bit lower. I don't know by how much, but my thought is like where my limiting factor is still in probably my potassium and in my into my calcium scores. But
just looking through here a little bit.
Did you say you only had 120 units of nitrogen total?
yeah. Yeah, that's what I was asking when what you guys were doing. I'm thinking you were over burning like the biology part of it all. And we never really knew what we were accomplishing by going to 2 wide drops, other than before we joined the MACC group. But it all kind of makes sense of what we were doing without even knowing. And that's even, we were applying 180, 90 units then, and we've come down that far since then. That's been 4 or 5 years ago.
So if I'm reading that right, that farm average 310.
Yeah, in that area where that field averaged right at 68, I think it was.
So this soil sample and tissue sample is in kind of the sweeter spot. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
it's in one of the better spots of the field, which it's kind of a low lying field for the most part. Like when we're wet, it's really wet, but on a normal year like last year, it shines because it's the moisture below it brings it back up. Those soil samples were from, it's probably been 5, 6 years ago now. So it's like we've been applying lime, we've been applying gypsum in our strip till also, and my plan is to go back in the soil sample all of this here this fall to get updated ones. But I didn't want to do it the first or second year because it wasn't really probably going to show much. But now with 3 applications of lime of, probably 250, 300 pounds of pelletized, it's probably going to show a change to see what it actually is changing.
So have you pulled samples from this field before?
Corn wise?
Yeah, tissue
Yeah.
samples.
Yep.
What's your mag doing compared to,
Like on tissue samples?
yeah, compared to like 3 or 4 years ago? If it's going down any.
I think it is overall going down.
What's your base saturation on your soil samples?
Well, you can see it up there.
Oh, so-
20 probably.
This is like
Actually, this
16.
was probably a little lower than normal.
But pH, well, this was 4 or 5 years ago. You can see the pH was pretty low,
Yeah.
but
Our
I
mag
mean, so
actually on this sample is higher than the one from 2022, and that was 285 bushel corn.
this was higher.
Yeah, this one's actually higher for, I mean, it's not by much, but it's probably by like a tenth, 500 to a tenth of a point higher on average.
What about your potassium?
Potassium,
Well,
this one's probably a little higher by,
so when you ask the question on, getting into that 350 plus, I think that's when we really need to start focusing on, balancing ratios.
Mhm.
I think that's where we get a lot of our bushels out now by gaining,
Yeah.
uh, getting a lot of the nutrients pretty well balanced with each other. But I'm just trying to look here on the zinc. So you're a little low on the zinc, to especially on the ratios, but um, you know I think 350 bushel corn plus, unless you have really super good weather, you really need to be in that shoot for that, no more than um, what would that be? No more than not, depends on which way you look at it. 120 to 1, or no more than 11 to 1. Preferably 9. That's kind of seems to be our sweet spot, 9 to 1. And I don't know what you are.
Or like for population.
No, I'm talking from your ratios from your zinc
Oh,
boss and that. So
yeah.
no, I'd say maybe, a little bit of zinc air might help a little bit. Um,
We were, so like to figure out for our 2x2 system, we've been
mhm.
trying to, like I did a test last year of going from where we were at 32 gallons an acre and I went up to like 40 or 42. And they all gave
Mm,
me a bushel return, but it's like, well, what nutrient did that? So
yeah,
like our thought is like, well, I would add in, like for this case, well, let's try, rather than running a gallon and a half of or of zinc in our 2x2, what would another gallon get me, or what would another, half gallon get me? But the problem is like, how do I do that, on 25, 30 acre batches? Do you
yeah.
go in there and just dump in whatever, when you get half down on your tanks,
That's that's normally what we do. Just
that's,
carry jugs with us and
yeah,
and throw in. But I'm kind of curious. Your boron jumped all over the board.
yeah.
Um,
Like you can see when we wide drop it in.
yeah.
And then when we apply at tassel, we'll have Calbor in there also. And you can see those jumps.
I mean, you went from VT, you was at 146, and then, you know, a week later, you dropped to 20.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just wondering if there. I mean, I wonder if that number, which number is correct. That's what I should say.
And we had some weird numbers with our boron. Like there was in other fields that they were in like the 300s. And if it wasn't just one field, it was two of them. And it was like, well, why the heck? What is going on here? It's like, did I, you know, take the wrong leaf or something? But when I have two fields, I wouldn't think I'd take that many wrong leaves.
Well, but I mean, once you get up in that 300 range, you're probably getting toxicity. So that plant probably should have been showing like a, instead of like a John Deere green, it should be more like would have been turning into like a Steiger green. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? A lighter color. What did your let me see what your calcium did on that.
Yeah, like it's probably went from that 95 to 146 is probably the Calbor application because the calcium numbers doubled and then dropped back off.
Yeah, the calcium numbers stayed up, but the boron dropped pretty good then. Did you Y drop that or did you foliar that Calbor?
Calbor's foliar. The Y drops, the first pass we put a gallon or a half a gallon of boron in. And it seems to get us longer through the season that way.
Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering if that VT reading of boron, if there was a little bit of residual boron on the leaves.
Yeah.
I'm betting that's what it was. It's
And it probably dropped a lot
pretty
harder than it should have or did.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big jump in a week's time.
Yeah, and a pretty big decrease too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Travis, that's all. I mean, once you get up there, I don't think, you get that 350, it's not one nutrient, adding just one. I think there it's going to be balancing out, that's where you got to start working on ratios then to achieve that, to get into that higher numbers. But man, I tell you what, that's good corn. 310.
Yeah. I mean, we're this last year. I mean, we saw some of the highest highs we've ever seen, and so it does make us think, going, well, what do we do for the next leg up? And I mean, it could be as simple as actually getting some rain in September. I mean, this last year it was 95 and 40-mile-an-hour winds 4 out of the 7 days, and to get 3/10 from the middle of August till September is like it's not. We didn't get much help that way, but so we don't we don't know because our dips it's like you go through and the corn would be grass green and you'd be picking 3 whatever, and then you go to the corn that died or was dying prematurely and it was 250. I mean, you had these big yield swings. I'm like, it was like it almost has to be like the soil type or the whatever was dying. It was just that was a big swing of it.
Well, I would say water would probably be more beneficial than anything else then.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw the same thing in our soybeans too. I mean, we thought we were going to have 70 bushel soybeans and then we didn't get any rain and all that heat and they went to 53 and it was like, oh, this was awesome. And
yeah.
We like with that planter thing, like we've talked about, we're trying to put together like an injection system to be able to test products easier, but it's like that's a headache too. I don't know if that's a good thing to do.
Well, here's the here's the problem. How much time's a guy going to sit there and fiddle that? You ain't got a big window to plant.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. It's just really tough to test a bunch of products in and out all the time. But I truly think that that you're definitely on the right path here. I don't think it's gonna, I don't think you applying a gallon of this or a gallon of that is going to gain you. I think it's just fine tuning to get your relations is what your ratios is going to be your next jump for your yield, and then rain. Rain's going to be the biggest, but I think you're well on your way.
Yeah. Well, Craig sent me his. I've had it before, and I just, we were never really to that point until I think like this last year or even going into this year, just because it's like we had to get our base numbers up high enough to even affect it first. And then it's like, cause we were, dramatically lower when we first started this. And now it's like, well, we actually have numbers to really use in a ratio that make, I'm not just lacking something terrible
Yeah.
to make a difference. But
Yeah, give us a soil sample on this and see what's the difference is. It'd be interesting to see.
yeah, that's what I probably kind of slacked off, but it's by the time we get cleaning up equipment, red lime and doing any sort of field work, it's like I have about 3 days to get it all done before the ground turns into a rock because it freezes up. And so it's like how do I get it all done? So it's like we have our own probe, but it's like, well, do I hire somebody to get it, as soon as harvest is done? Because sometimes it's just cheaper that way, but I don't know how good a job they do either. I don't want to pay for
See if
crap.
Terry will lend you some money.
Yeah. Maybe Terry, come on, pull my samples for me.
Yeah,
Yeah. My kids aren't quite old enough to run a Ranger yet, too.
just keep me in plenty of Metamucil, according to Michelle.
All right, Joe.
Okay, I think we have Perry joining us and Sweezy. And I wanted to go over some of his.
Let me jump on here. See. Hey guys.
What's up, Eric?
Hey, it's a day from I thought this thing was tomorrow. This
Really?
meeting was tomorrow, not today.
Tomorrow too.
So today is the day from not great here at home. But that's not your all's problem, that's our problem. So let's
Well.
drive on, man.
So, Eric, you want to start going over some of these?
Yes, sir. These are some tissue tests that we took for 24. As you can see on the kind of the top right, you can see the application, the products we applied, when we actually applied them. So above the cursor there, Joe,
I'm sorry.
it's above your cursor, those there in that side there. We actually grew a corn crop on 10, 12 inches of rainfall. So pretty tough in this part of the world. So and I did a blanket. I put down a blanket of products from BTI on all the corn acres. The Prime Pro M seed treatment along with some Innovate. And we use some Activate, some KFOS, along with quite a few other products throughout the year. And I had switched over to the Defend Pro fungicide as well on both corn and soybeans.
So first thing, what's your opinion on the BTI? Did it help?
I think if we could get a crop planted timely with adequate rainfall, I think it's there. We pulled 22 B crop, Haney tests, TND tests, and Malik 3 tests in September, as in August and September. And we've dived into this thing pretty hard. And Joe has a slide from what I pulled in September of 22 to September of 24. And some pieces got better, some got worse. If you can find that slide, I can talk it.
Did you
Over,
use the same points on your from 22 to 24? Did you use the same soil test points?
yes, these are
Okay.
all sites that are on tissue tests that have been in the tissue test cycle since 2018.
Okay, good.
So these have some hard facts behind it. The fungi, the bacteria has improved on majority of them. The first bee crop sample I did in 22 went to waters. Since then, we have switched to Regen, and we will continue to stay with Regen for those 3 tests. But as you can see, the pathway for carbon went from high to low or to very low. That's standard across the board. That one's puzzled me. I thought we were doing a good job with with chewing up the fodder, but as you can see, we're not. But the nitrogen is better. The pathway for that's gotten improved, and the phosphorus is the same way. The potassium is kind of went backwards some to stable. You can see the rest of them there, and the organic matter has increased greatly. I'm kind of impressed over that, if that's real. And there has been no lime applied on these farms in that period of time. So you see what happened to the pH.
So, Eric, was this one of them farms we talked, I don't know, a year ago or maybe 2 years ago? Was all this high dolomite lime before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's high mag lime.
Okay.
Since then, I have moved to some lime that's not as high in mag, but I mean, I'm being ate up from spreading lime 10, 12 years ago. That was coarse, and it's now showing up. And I'm thinking with my MACC 3s, I'm thinking our mag is starting to fall. We have been pulling soil samples in zones every year for the last 10 years. And I'm thinking the trend is starting to fall, or that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So I'm just kind of curious on the carbon. What does Al think? What does Al tell you? Why does he think it's going? Or I mean, it says it's going backwards, but really, is it? I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, sir,
Um,
I understand.
but I'm just kind of curious what he thinks. Why the pathways are just by what this test says going backwards. I mean, you ought to kind of be able to tell if your residue's breaking down. Can you tell a difference in your residue?
Oh yeah, we're eating it up pretty good. I thought I was on top of it, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this says no.
But look
Well,
at the way that you're between 22 and 24, your fungi to bacteria ratios, how they
well,
changed. They went down considerably, except for that one field that ends in 13Q, whatever all those numbers are.
Right.
I mean, they dropped drastically. You're getting closer to way better numbers.
well,
I mean, it's coming there. It's
so
coming in. if you see my soil health score, they're a 25 to 36.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, I
it's
mean,
phenomenal.
so my looking at this, and by no means am I anywhere close to an expert, but um, some of these pathways I don't get concerned with because when you're dealing with Mother Nature. I mean, Al and Cassidy both said that they've only recognized what, like 3% of the bugs, or have identified 3% of the bugs that's in the soil or whatever. So, Mother Nature has a way of going around the pathways. Now, don't get me wrong, this is just me speaking, but there's more than one pathway, I think. They piggyback in, nutrients piggyback in, I mean, it's just the way it is. So, I mean, I like the eyeball test. If you can visually see your residue breaking down better, I mean, I absolutely would not be paying attention to the carbon because I don't believe that very low, very low, very low. I mean, it would show. Um, so, I mean, I like these tests, but I don't get this kind of test. But I don't, it's my question is on, I think the last bee crop we showed that our zinc and our boron was plugged. The pathway was plugged. Well, those are my two easiest nutrients I have on my farm to raise. So somehow it's getting in there into the plant. So, I think we're still dealing with something a little bit depth, maybe 10 years from now, we can, they'll figure some more stuff out. Um, but like Craig said, the bacteria to fungi numbers are, that's numbers that I would pay attention, and they are getting considerably better overall.
Agree 100%.
Yeah. And, your pH, and I still believe that my opinion is pH does make a difference on, I'm not saying you can have the colonies, but I think it makes a difference in what colonies thrive. Some colonies thrive better in different pH zones. So I think the pH thing, will get better. When it gets better, I think your numbers are going to get better too. On that,
I'll agree with that.
but man, look at that organic matter. Now, here's my question. In 22, was a Regen Labs in 22 that did these?
No.
Okay.
It went to Waters Lab, the Waters.
Okay. I was just kind of curious to see, every lab's going to be different, but to see what, like where you jump to 5 in that farm 6N or C6.
Right.
I was just kind of curious to see what they showed on that.
Well, if you recall back in that era, you all had kind of lined up with Hagen pretty close with Jeff, and had asked several of us to pull some bee crops. So I pulled 6 that year.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned from that is we're going to regen from now on.
Oh,
So,
that big a difference?
yeah, it's just a standardized test.
Okay.
I mean, Hagen or Otter still does the Malik 3 for us and does all the tests for us as well. I mean, we're not quitting. We're just sending certain things certain places.
Understand.
So, Eric, tell us what you think of the Haney tests that you had run. What'd you learn from them?
what I've learned, and Joe has them, if you can pull those up, Joe.
All right.
You threw them in the slides.
This him?
No, that's just no.
I might not have brought the handy over. There's no handies at the bottom here, right?
No. That's the soybeans there for tissue test. I think I sent them to you, Joe. I thought I did anyway.
Hold on, I am having technical difficulties today.
Now is there something else you want to talk to Kevin about? He can be looking for those.
What I've learned from studying this stuff a lot closer over the weekend and kind of off and on for since harvest was over. And I'm by no means an expert on any of this, but it just looks like the soil health score has gotten greatly improved. I just wish I had a baseline 5 years ago when we started all this stuff. And I have said it time and time again. Everybody ought to do a B crop sample test along with the TND and a Haney test, and that there sets the baseline for where you're actually at, and then see what you do from that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm a believer in that.
Yeah.
We're all slinging product and we don't know if it's working or not because we don't see it in the yield. But the thing is, with carbon and sugar and all this other stuff, you ain't gonna see it real quick. It's a slow process. Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I've said this story many a times to you guys, when I started farming myself, 30 plus years ago, I did not know what I was doing was, I didn't do it because of soil health. I did it because of just the way up my farm was set up with liquid and low salts and little did I know. I mean, really didn't pay much attention to the neighbor's corn back then, but I've been at this game on our farm for over 30 years now. Um, and I can honestly say it's still getting better. The soil is. So, um, did it happen, overnight? I'm sure it didn't. My grandpa and them, when they farmed, they were using some dry fertilizer and they were using anhydrous. Just when I took over, um, I just did not. I don't know why. It just fit me better running liquid. And the moral of the story is, if I'm still seeing benefits in 30 years, or I think our ground's getting better and better. 30 years is a big difference from 4, 5, 3 years, however long you guys been doing it. It does take time. But once you do make the switch where it starts, you're starting to, it seems like the yield starts going up. It just seems like it just compounds, quicker and quicker, and where the weather don't affect you quite as bad as now we're paying attention to the neighbor's crop a lot more. It just shows that, we go a week without, 10 days without rain. Them guys are corn's rolling up, looking kind of, not saying it's looking rough, but, you know, you can tell there's some pretty big stress going on their fields yet where, we just kind of just cruise through it. And, the humics now, I think, has been a big part. The last 15 years. Now, granted, the first 5 years we weren't using that much, but we were using some. Um, but I think my last 10 years, and my yields have kind of showed that too. Um, in the last 10 years, I'm not saying our top end is growing massively anymore, but our farm averages in, our weaker ground is getting better and better. And that's where guys make money. Not everybody, not I don't think everybody farms ground that makes 300 bushel corn every field. That's the big thing. Our weak ground is getting better and better. And that's, like I said, that's where we make our money at.
Right.
Truthfully, I don't know what the top end is on yields, but I can tell you, year in and year out, our farm averages, like just for instance, we went down on our very best ground, um, almost 20 bushel, over 20 bushel last year. Um, now we had a drought where, the 7 weeks it didn't rain. The hill ground was, it did take it on the chin, but normally our best ground will have more of a swag or more of a swing in yield than what our farm average does. So our farm average is getting closer and closer every year of it's less of a swing than what our top end is. And that's kind of what I base our farm on. I don't want to, what I'm saying is I don't want to be out farming and 1 year grow 300 bushel corn farm average and then the next year come back at 200. That's what's kind of, we don't see that anymore. We don't have that big swing through the weather patterns anymore. And I contribute this to the programs that we've been running year after year. And I think that's what's going to happen on everybody else's that's in this group. The biology numbers are going up. Like I said, you hit the nail on the head, Eric. I think everybody should pull a B crop, one spot, if you only pull one, just to make sure that you are getting better every year. I mean, I think that's why we're going down on inputs. I'm not saying my zinc and boron, really, my micros have not really went down, but I guarantee you my nitrogen has went way down on inputs. And that might be part of the reason why my yields are going up too. We're realizing that, we don't have to throw that much nitrogen out because nitrogen, it just seems like it affects everything on the amounts that you put out. For some reason, it seems to me that it affects all the biology or the pathways or whatever you want to call it, nutrient availability more than any other nutrient does.
I think you're right in that statement. And I think I have proof of that because when we wide drop in 2x2 and we're putting on 210 pounds of N, that close to the row, what does that convert to compared to putting it on in between the row with an applicator? How much?
Yeah,
how much
it's
stronger
actually
is that?
it's actually way more than what you think because you're basically putting it where 100% of what you're applying is going right to the row, right through the root system. Where even let's just do the math here. Let's just say you're putting 180 units with a Y drops and you're putting 240 units broadcast. Well, even though you got 60 more units, I will guarantee you probably 30% of that is never getting to the plant. Even though it moves. By the time it rains, especially if you're in a dry period where it sits, um, you know, I'm not saying, nitrogen does move a little bit east and west, but north and south, it just causes gravity. Most stuff moves straight up and down. But even nitrogen, if it moves down and even if you're knifing it 15 inches away, you're still about 10 inches away before it hits any roots if you're right in the middle of the row. So even if you're knifing it in, you're still not near as efficient as the Y drop. So I think some of the guys that don't like the Y drops, I think truthfully, it's just that they're overrunning their biology. Why they don't see? I'm not, you know, even if you say you don't get a yield gain, but if you could cut 40, 50 units on it, well, you're making more money. So the what I challenge everybody in this group to do, we've kind of found our sweet spot. Anytime I go over 180 units, that's I'm kind of borderline on putting too much down. Um, and we're growing what kind of crops we're growing. So that's going to be the hard thing for farmers, to find out what their sweet spot is. It would be hard for me to believe that anybody that's Y dropping has to apply 180 units that is Y dropping 2 times that you would have to apply 200 pounds through the Y drops and through your planter if you're banding it to grow 300 bushel corn. I do not believe you have to do that to grow 300 bushel corn. So what I'm saying is, I think still we're applying too much nitrogen as a group. I mean, unless you're growing really crazy high yields, I 200. I don't think we need to apply 200 pounds through this system. You're spacing it out. You're stabilizing it. 3 different times. So basically, what you're putting out there is, um, you know, basically going to be about as used up as efficient as you can. Now, granted, it's going to be some guys that have lower CECs. I still don't think you have to apply more nitrogen. I think if it would be me, I would be applying more humics, to kind of coagulate that, make that nitrogen more stable instead of spending more on nitrogen that they know or they feel like they are leaching out. But I don't know that because I don't farm really low CEC soils, but I've seen enough over the years of what these humics do. Um, I just I don't I think if you're going over 200 pound and you're not growing 350 bushel corn, nitrogen is not your issue. I mean, I think it's becoming a hinder on your crop.
Kevin, like when you're talking, just listen to it. It's like you get the like what you're saying, like if you get the efficiency of banding it all, but you also get the detriment of having that much salt also.
Yeah.
Little bit, so it's like, it's like we've done, strip whatever, farming for years and keeping it all in that. It's like, but I think we hit a ceiling from over applying like, urea and 1152 because we had such a hot salt band down there that our roots would just get there and so we're working it out, but it goes the other way too of like what you're saying, over applying weight. Like Y drops are great, but if you over apply it, all you're doing is just burn the crap out of everything right on the roots, and you're almost, I don't know, it's like for as much good as you're doing, you're going the other way. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like
And-
just get out of our way at times.
And so it goes back to the thing we say, because everybody, soil types are different, holder moisture capacity, everything's different. Rainfall. And I still think guys need to be running a half rate. Let's just say, just to use my to make it easy, to use what we use, for our applications, our amounts, but you should be putting half rate, the normal rate, what we use, and then double it, and then kind of go from there. Pull tissue samples in those three spots, and but here's the problem with that. When I think about it, when you go double, I think the nitrogen is going to affect every nutrient's uptake. I mean, we see it. I just Y drop one time. Well, we seen it down there in our MACC plot too, where we ran an extra 100 pounds at planting. The yield was significantly off, but down here in our river bottoms where we pulled our tissue samples, I mean, it was the only thing different we did was add another 60 units of nitrogen, and our tissue sample on every nutrient across the board, including the P and K, was down. So the doubling, it would really surprise me to see if anybody would gain a yield out of that. But I'm just betting you'll be surprised on a cut rate, a half rate, or whatever. Will definitely make way more money than doubling up on the nutrients, and I don't even know if you'd gain any more bushels. I mean, anytime we do that, we lose bushels when we over apply stuff. So, and then you're hurting your biology going through, that's, it's one thing, we're kind of sitting there thinking maybe next year we're going to do some strips, or this coming year here, of just pulling back again on the nitrogen on my planter just to see what it does, run my Y drops, keep my Y drops the same, but instead of running 20 gallon, maybe cut it back to 10 gallon just to see what it does on tissue samples. I don't know, but I'm a firm believer that too much fertility is worse than not enough. Not enough, at least you got your biology trying to do something, but when you get too much, you kind of whack it out where it's dead or, immobile for a while. So I don't know. That's just, anyway, Sweezy, go ahead here on this.
Well, this farm here, we own it, and we have always struggled to grow corn on it. But the bean crop is kind of fair. It's kind of okay. Uh, we alternate corn and beans on this farm every year with cover crop behind the soybeans. And then we plant early beans. We BT the corn stalks in the spring and plant early soybeans on it. April planted beans were some of the earlier planted anyway. So it's had quite a bit of humic on it along with sugars. We apply sugar, QLF sugar, about 6 gallon per acre on the corn and about 4 on the soybeans. And I do not put any humic on the soybeans at all. It just goes on the corn side.
Hang on one second. Eric, I got a question. Have you done corn on corn?
Nope.
Where you got some of these tests and tried going corn on corn and see what these tests change or not?
No,
Have you
sir.
ever tried that?
Sure haven't.
it would, I'm just sitting there thinking, with the way, way we can, way our planners are built now, way we got them set up, especially in this group with the Y drops. Um, I'm wondering if that would help, especially on the carbon part. Because well, hear me out here. Until we got the Y drops, and until we really started running, a lot of humics, um, and banding everything, there was no doubt our corn following soybeans was better. And now it's the other way. Um, our corn on corn is better than our corn following soybeans. And I'm just kind of wondering if there's maybe a strip in the field there where you could do that. I'm just curious if that would help speed the process up, because you got a lot of plant-based, fertility that's already been through, um, that's available to the plant, that's going to be, dying off, coming back available for the corn. It would just be interesting to see if you would have a strip or two somewhere where you could go corn on corn, and truthfully, the longer you go corn on corn, the better it gets. The first year is always the roughest year, of corn on corn that I've seen, that we've taken, like when we have when we plant beans, and then come back with corn, the second year seems to be better than what the first year is following corn, if that makes any sense. And it's all about the carbon and available nutrients that you're getting from the corn stalks that's, deteriorating, breaking down. I mean, Travis, you probably seen this, ain't you? On that, ain't you more corn? Yeah, you're going more corn on corn all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen better breakdown with by spraying all this stuff on it. I mean, you can just go out there and see it all move. We haven't done a lot of corn on corn lately, but we're moving in that direction this year just because, well, economic side of it all. But we had a couple of years of PP where we were a lot of prevent plant, and you could see it right to a T where we had corn stalks out there and where they were breaking it down, and a 20 bushel increase on just our soybeans alone, just of what you're getting out of it. And where it would go back off and you'd have it just from black dirt, and it has to be working back into the corn too, and you can see it out there.
Eric, do you think you could do that? Make a strip or two in a field or not? Would that
No,
be a problem?
there's no way I can take care of that. The management would not happen.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
there's just no possible way.
Okay. Um,
Sorry, I'm not going to that
yeah,
much headache because it's
yeah,
management on
yeah.
our.
Understand. Um, but anyway, go ahead and talk about this a little bit, Eric.
I'm trying to learn this the SFA complete as well, same as you all. But that's derived from the B crop, the Haney and the TND test at Regen. It puts it all into one, so it's easier to read. And then BTI, of course, has your analysis on the one side of that report, and then on the right, because it shows what you can apply to help cure the problem. And then you can pick and choose of those products what you want to apply at what rate. So
Pretty neat.
the path I'm heading down for 25 is I'm going to go down quite a bit more BTI products, trying to learn this pathway thing. And I mean, we're putting down some dry fertility still, but not a whole lot on corners. Just some AMS trying to grab sulfur, but we're putting down sulfate of potash on beans. And I think we're going to change that some for 2025 by adding some K-phos in the beans, as well as the corn. And the intent is figure out what the budget is on dry fertility and then adjust it accordingly with the BTI product to offset that cost.
Yeah.
That's the intent for 25.
Yeah.
T and D.
I mean, the values that's in this soil is, I mean, it's not only me, it's every person. They're just off the charts.
Yeah.
It's all tied up. I mean, I've heard you say it more than once about the phosphorus at your place is tied up.
Yeah. Yeah, you sit there and look at them numbers. If you could get it all available, you know, you're looking at 1,000 bushel corn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, being serious. I mean, you know, that's the pain in the ass about this.
All I can say is there is something to it. I mean, there's got to be something to it. I mean, not doing anything ain't, you know, because it's not the answer, the answer either. So,
There's your Haney test.
sorry, I had a guy trying to bring in some soybeans today. Uh, but you know, the Haney test is combination of a Malik 3 with the Haney, and you know, I'm being told from Al that your soil health score box there 2/3 of the way down the page is that's the key piece to the Haney test is your soil health score. And then I've seen some soil health scores from some other people, and I mean they're down in the tens, the fives.
Yeah.
So I think that there's something here from what that we've been trying to do. I just wish that I had a baseline when I started 5 years ago.
Yeah.
There's another.
Well, it's better than nothing now.
Yeah,
Better.
I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying, I just wish you had something to go back to.
Yeah.
Um,
Got any fence
but
lines? There are these fields.
what'd you say, Craig?
Got any fence lines? Undisturbed areas?
Yes.
Well, that would just get him what it was.
Further the other direction.
Yeah.
What
Or
about
looking at the possibilities where to go.
oh yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying, but maybe some end corners or something might have, been missed, you know, outside edges. I'm just trying to think where the best possibility of the ground being more like it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, what I've done, I got 2 farms that we custom farm. They do get sugar, but they don't get anything else. Those are my two checks. And I did pull some B crops on those back in September to just see what they was. And I can't verbally talk it right here today, but there is a change in them. I can say that there.
A good deal.
And we have had a terrible crop in 19, 23, and 24. Terrible crops because of no rain. So it affects what that we're trying to do here.
Oh yeah.
And then I sell crop insurance as a daytime job, so I see other people's yields, and we're still beating people in the area. I ain't happy with it, but we're still above the trend.
But that gap will keep getting bigger, I promise you, between you and your neighbors.
Well, I hope so.
So you keep selling insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that gap will only keep getting bigger and bigger every year. Yeah, look at them pounds. I mean, it's a lot of nutrients.
It's just trying to learn how to get them into the plant from the soil into the plant,
Yeah.
which is harder. It's easier said than accomplished.
I definitely agree. All right, Joe.
Stay on that particular field.
What's the carbon nitrogen number? Can't always see it
Let's
on
see
the
what
soil health.
on this test.
Yeah, on the soil health there, carbon to nitrogen ratio. Is that 15?
Looks like it.
That's what I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. I was just curious.
So here's a curiosity question on this, and we'll just use um, Eric's as an example. But look how many thousands of pounds of fertilizer he's put on through the years that's laying out there, and that's the same thing that's happening to every farmer out there, I suppose, that they're building bigger and bigger reservoirs, but it's not becoming available. That's the tough thing.
That's the expensive thing.
Yeah.
It's an expensive thing, right?
Al was telling me a story here a while back. 13.22 No, sorry, that's the wrong one. TFF, sorry. $15.336 is that was on the Haney test,
Okay.
is on the
Okay.
carbon for that sample. He was telling me a story on a guy said that they have kept increasing their dry fertility over the years, trying to keep pushing the yields, but their soil health has kept, I mean, it's fell down into below 10. He says the soil is just not active. And he says it's going to take a long time to bring that soil back around.
Yeah.
And what we see from growing tobacco in this part of the world, uh, the ground that's plowed, there's no structure to it. The air's out of it. It's just compacted. There ain't anything to it. It's just dead. The ground that I see today that we're trying to no-till in, or man, it just has it's alive. You can tell that.
Yeah.
You think it's wet, but it's really dry, or drier. It don't, it don't stick in a ball.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's what you guys missed out on raising tobacco. We just put a 2,000 pounds of fertilizer per acre.
Wow. I'm glad it didn't make it this far north.
You're lucky. You're lucky.
Yeah.
You know,
I do
I
like
know
to
it's,
chew it, but
this sounds crazy, but I mean, it's real. You can grow a wheat crop after tobacco and do well. Soybeans, the yield falls off.
Yeah.
no.
I mean, you wouldn't think that, but hey, it will, because I've seen it in the combine. But
What you got now, Joe?
All right. So that's everybody that has sent me something. Um, so I thought, let's look at a couple other things. And these are just nuggets that I have gathered through the years. This is from, gosh, what's her name? Can't think of her name right now. But I listened to some of her presentations, and these are little nuggets that came off of it. And there's a couple in here further down, probably have to ask you a question about. So how does that carbon get into the soil? Liquid soil carbon pathway. Of course, it's through the plant, through photosynthesis, synthesis, exudation especially, and then humidification is what we see as the progression of organic matter into humus, actually, eventually. The allocation of that photosynthetic, can you guys still hear me or am I still muffled? It's root shoots, 30 to 50%, roots 30 to 50%, and the microbes is 0 to 40%, contributing to that soil carbon. We've talked about mycorrhiza all the time, making a bigger, massive root mass. And it increased the carbon, has increased the pH in the CEC. Increase the carbon, you increase the availability of phosphorus and calcium and potash and sulfur. You increase the carbon, you increase the availability of copper, zinc, iron, molybdenum. You increase the carbon, increase the availability of sodium. Microbes versus fertilizer. It's kind of what Eric was just talking about. The very few nutrient deficiency are absolute. Most are functional due to poor soil structure and or lack of microbial diversity. Agricultural chemicals and synthetic fertilizers significantly microbial populations and the functional dynamics of the soil. How do we get more microbes? Well, we have to try to stop killing them. Basically, off some of the practices that we use. Improve the plant root systems and above ground management of the plants. How can we turn it around? Rebuild healthy, porous, carbon-rich topsoil. And what kind of carbon are we going to seek? The decomposition pathway ends in CO2. The sequestration pathway produces humus. And how do we build topsoil? It's through the root mass, the exudates, different things, crops that we're growing on it, of course. Carbon sends signals to microbes and to other plants. And the flow of that soil carbon is to different pathways. So I had sent this out at one time, and I don't know if you guys remember getting it, but I thought it was really useful. University of Illinois. This is the
Craig, turn your microphone off.
Who?
Craig,
Oh.
it's
This is different nutrients and the percent of their uptake at the growth stages. And I thought that was a pretty neat chart that I produced. This one is the N, P, and K, sulfur and manganese, magnesium uptake. Amazing at the different levels there they've recorded. I have one on soybeans, but it didn't come over where we could read it. I could send it out by email. So I must still be garbled.
yeah, you are.
So recording in progress. I just go ahead and whatever you guys want to talk about, we can talk about. And I had to get my microphone.
Yeah, guys, you got any questions? It's probably been the least amount of questions we've ever had.
Yeah.
I guess going back to Sweezy's B crop and all those tests, I guess it's just kind of cool to see that you can actually change your fungi to bacteria ratio. And it seems like the stuff we're all doing is putting us on the right track. So more just comment than a question, but I think that's a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there's definitely more than one way to get to the end goal, but the main thing is that I think most everybody's getting to that end goal where we're getting healthier soil, where we're creating more yield down the road. You know, some has it now already, and just a question of how long it takes. That's $1 million question.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
On your tissue sampling,
Mm-hmm.
you have goals for everything.
Uh-huh.
And say you start tissue sampling right away,
Mm-hmm.
V2, V4, whatever, go all the way down to black layer.
Uh-huh.
These goals that you set, would you consider those luxury goals as time goes on? I mean, trying to keep, say, nitrogen up at 3.5 when you get into the R stages, or do you say certain nutrients need to be up there when the peak demand is, like later in the season, for phosphorus and nitrogen and things like that? I mean, when someone new looks at this and they're going like 3.5, okay, I can do that first 3 tissue samples. Man, I can't keep that up. How critical is it to keep those numbers
So
up?
so that's a good question. So um yeah, I mean there is levels that or each nutrient is at different times. Like false, I try to keep up as high as we can. That's going to help on grain fill,
Right.
the weight. Boron, we always say, I've always said this, once we get above tassel, get through tassel, I'm not overly concerned about it. Because normally when you're that high and you go through tassel, your boron numbers are high enough to pretty well carry us, where we're at will carry me through two black layer. But sulfur is one of them, that I really would like to be at that higher point from, really V12, preferably through R2, R3. Um, but I guess I could break down what actually our goals are. Maybe those goals we could say are what I don't want them to drop under, because everybody's been in this long enough, have done this, know that it is a pain in the ass to keep the nutrients up high. And the problem is, and there's a reason why we start high, because we can't really hardly bring them up through the season. So I guess to answer your question, Craig, would be for the goals would be to kind of try to stay above them all the way through, or right around them all the way through the growing season, just because of how hard they are once they drop off to catch back up to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then when you look at what's happening in a plant when it goes from vegetative to reproductive, that plant starts sending its energy
Yeah.
more into the grain fill than it does down into the root system.
Mm-hmm.
So biology and everything is getting shortchanged because a plant is trying to reproduce, right? So, and typically, at least up here, it gets dry as shit. That's when the ground starts cracking. Well, how do you expect those numbers at that time of year to remain high when there's no soil solution to have
Well,
nutrients moving around in? That's
so so there's a couple things. Why we talk about the humics, moisture holding capacity. Um, it would be interesting, Craig, to see some of your guys in your area, because the guys with the high mag, their soils are going to crack a lot more than what like our soils do. Just the way it is. With high mag, it dries, it's going to crack more. But it would be interesting to see if you could go out for guys that's been running humic acids and this and that for a while and trying to drop the mag, to see a difference in guys that have been running a program to try to work on their base sats, work on their salts, work on their bacteria and fungi, and guys that haven't. Because you sit there and you think about it, the bigger that crack is, the quicker it's drying out, right? That's getting
that's
oxygen
correct.
down in it. So,
And the more
so I,
cannibalizations begins and the faster it happens because it needs it, can't get it
so
through the soil anymore. So it takes it from the
exactly.
plant.
So, by no means am I saying 100% that we can go through a drought. I mean, our hills got hurt a little bit this year too, but you know, if I think if we go back to 2012 right here, if we had the weather that we had in 2012, by no means do I want to have another 2012, but what I'm saying is I don't think that would affect my bottom ground nearly as much as what it did back in 2012. Just because of, we're running a lot more humics, we have a lot more biology. Our water holding capacity is way better than what we had back in 2012. So, that's the thing. You fix the mag or try to start fixing the mag. I think by getting that down, you're automatically going to start helping your drought resistance. Just by, like I said, the tighter the ground is, the drier it gets, the more it's going to pull and get tight. And then it goes into biology and your humics. So, we still need water. I'm not arguing that. There's no doubt if we'd have caught some rains, we'd have had a lot better crop. But, it's just trying to minimize the damaging effects, I guess. We don't get hit as bad as what some guys, I should say. Because like I said, Craig, we see it here. Last year we seen it big time. We were 70 to 100 bushel better than our neighbors.
Yeah.
Now part of that, there's no doubt, tar spot got them a lot earlier, but there we go again. We run higher copper levels. Our plant's a little bit healthier. We have more nutrients in the plant. A big healthy plant with plenty of water and nutrition is going to take any kind of stress better than something that's spindly and weak. So yeah, we figured out
to keep nutrition up throughout the year in a balanced state.
Yeah.
Which this whole program promotes that.
Yeah. Got anything else, guys? Anything? Super Bowl winners? Who's going to win it? Who's going to lose it?
Duke.
Duke will win the basketball.
They're looking good.
Oh, Cooper. He's not too bad for a 17-year-old, is he?
Not too bad.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah. Hey, Dale.
Hey, I was late. I forgot. But Cassidy's not on there this week, but Joe keeps pushing the carbon, and Cassidy's telling me those guys are telling me, oh, you got too much carbon. So somebody's going to have to make up their mind what we're going to do here. The other thing is, a year or so ago, you acquired a piece of ground that hadn't had manure and stuff on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious how your biology is on that. Have you done a B crop test or anything to your bacteria to fungi ratio? How that is?
Okay. So number one, I did not do a B crop, but I promise I am getting a B crop this spring. Not only on that farm, but another little farm that we bought this spring. So I'll have two of them, and we'll have some information on that for this summer, maybe the summer meeting. We can go through that and see how we're going to react, or because my game plan is we just pulled regular soil samples on it on both farms there, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to treat it. I know somebody was talking about running some BTI stuff on it. I think that was last month. But I'm going to tell you how I'm going to treat it. On this last farm we just got, we are going to make four strips in that farm where we are going to run a half rate, full rate, and a double rate. And then we are going to run a full package of the BTI stuff. And this will all be on, I will have beet crops before I pull it. And then hopefully about tassel time, we'll get down there and pull another BTI or another test to see, just to see where we're at and if we can do any, changing of the numbers. And this farm here, the one we just bought, we will not haul any manure back there just because, one, it's back in bum, whatever you call it, Egypt. A lot of rough hills we got to go up to get there. So this farm here that we just picked up, as the game plan is right now, there will not be any manure hauled back there, probably ever, just because of how hard it is to get to it. So I'll have a farm now that I'll get to see what some of you guys are going through without the manure biology that we get from the manure. So I think that's going to be a big learning curve for us too. To try to help you guys get through this without the manure, see how our approach will change on the soil health without the manure.
You got any yield history on that farm at all?
So the guys that farmed it before had 4 years of soybeans in a row. So, and I think the soybeans, I don't know much about the guys that farmed it before. But the landowner was trying to say they were making like 55, 60 bushel beans back there. So, I think for the river bottom, I thought it was a little low, but I don't know. The soil samples didn't look too bad. The pH, what I'm concerned about, the pH was like 6.8, and the base satch, which the base satch was a little bit higher for the mag. It was at 12, a little bit higher than what we want, but we're gonna farm it this first year the way it is before we do anything to see before we do any adjusting to anything on the crop. So we'll have a baseline, I guess, like what Eric was saying, a baseline we'll have. So
I think I told you maybe last meeting, I don't remember, but I have a piece that hasn't been farmed. It's been alfalfa for 100 years, I think. I don't know. But so that was going to be my Mythbuster field. And I pulled beet crop, Haney, all the stuff on it to see where my bacteria to fungi was. They weren't any different on that field than they have been on the fields I've been farming and that have had chemicals on them.
So can I say something about that before? Now, don't crucify me, group. All right. So my opinion, once again, I've never been called smart, but I don't understand where everybody suggests that, no offense, planting cover crops and, rotating crop rotation changes the bacteria and fungi numbers. I don't know how it does because, if you're growing a crop on it, like corn, I mean, just go with me on this. Think about how much if you're working the ground or no tilling or whatever, but you're putting in a lot of biomass back into the ground, right? Even though it's one crop. But if these other crops are not, how do I say this? man, I don't know how to explain it, what I'm thinking, but um,
Draw a picture.
that would really be bad. But the moral of the story is, I mean, I just I have never, no offense, seen on any bee crop of guys cover cropping or crop rotation have number one, have more bacteria and fungi than what we have. And yeah, we do have manure, but other people in this world has manure too. Um, but I just have never seen numbers being so great by, going different crops or cover cropping. Um, I've just have never seen it, and I've seen a bunch of bee crops on in our MACC group. I've seen a few bee crops out in public from different people, and I think it just boils down to just going by what we're doing by you know humics, sugars, um, low salts, and feeding what you have there. Now the problem is there's some species that years and years and years and years and years of running dry fertilizer, um, have killed off. Um, Now, I'm not saying that there could be some species that you could cover crop in and get them, but as far as actual bacteria and fungi numbers, I have never seen yet on anybody's bee crop or any kind of test like that that has had higher numbers than what we have. And we're conventional. We do spread manure in the fall, but we're conventional. We work the ground every year on in the bottoms. I'm not talking the hills. The hills we do cover crop, some wheat, um, and we do no till up there. But our conventional numbers are higher than what our no till numbers are on the bacteria and fungi. So I don't get on Twitter when people get up there and talk about all this stuff, but I'm like, you know, we got farms that's been no-tilled for, you know, close to 50 years. And when we pull any kind of a soil biology or soil test about soil health, it's not as good as the ground that we work every year, and we're staying in the same crop every year. So it's just hard for me to believe some of the stuff that's getting said, um, that is true when we don't see it on our farm, anything what they say. Now the numbers are not bad. I'm not saying they're bad numbers, but I don't think working ground is as bad as what they say because you are getting oxygen back into the soil. I do believe working the ground is harder to build organic matter because you got oxygen down there and it's burning up a lot of that. I agree. I 100% agree with that. But to me, growing a crop, the bacteria and the fungi numbers, I've not seen anything higher than that. I'm saying I'm talking no till and strip till to minimum till to whatever. The bottom line is our highest yielding ground is the numbers or the ground that's got the highest numbers for us.
Kevin, so I
Yeah.
got some things I just run by you. Okay. And a lot of times people don't look at, you're doing this with supposedly less nutrients, but you're putting a lot out there with your manure. Okay, I was trying to find a test that I could actually, around here, we can't get basically much for chicken litter or anything. We can get cattle manure.
Huh?
But I wanted to run a test on my cattle manure to find out the um, whether there is actually some herbicide type carryover stuff in it for like from roundups and that. I have not found that test. The thing of, and who knows, our cattle manure is going to vary from
Yeah.
year to year. You are putting out the same biology, the same litter every year after year for who knows how many years. You have not changed what you're putting out there. You got a consistent biology going out. We're not able to do that, even though we're going to get manure from the same feedlot. What they're feeding them cattle is changing constantly, and it can't be the same. I want to try to test it somehow, somewhere, but I have not found somebody that can actually test it and tell me what, okay, so people spray their corn with Roundup and then they chop it for silage and it goes back in through the cow. What comes back out through the cow in manure? Can that be affecting anything?
So 100%. So what I was going to say is, our manure does change, and a lot has to do with what kind of sickness our birds have, because our birds, they're turkeys, they get sick all the time. But we always get dermatitis. You figure from week 15 to week 19 or 19 and a half when we sell, we always deal with dermatitis. So you can't cure it, but you can run penicillin, and penicillin will control it. Like I said, you can't cure it, but so we have, and we know for a fact that the heavier or the stronger that the dermatitis is in, where we have to run stronger rates of penicillin, it does make a difference on our biology numbers. So, we've been out of the cattle business for a while now, so I don't know. Thanks, Kogan. I don't know what all they run, but I do know if they do have, if the cattle are sick or whatever, when we have a respiratory disease, we have to either run amoxicillin or Penchlor, which is just whatever. The amoxicillin actually makes a way bigger. Let me get this straight when I tell you. It works way more on our fungi than what it does to bacteria. Where penicillin, it seems like where we run penicillin, it don't affect quite as much the fungi as much as what it affects them both. So it would be interesting to see on your cattle manure, which I don't know if they would give you that information, but it would be interesting to see what kind of medicine when they get sick, what they run on it. You know what I'm saying? And the birds are on the cattle, but the nutrients don't change, but our biology actually changes. Now when we had our manure shed, we used to take it out and store it in the building and let it kind of compost or what I'm saying, break down a little bit. And then it seems like our numbers would come back up. But like say like this next flock, as soon as if we're running a heavy dose of penicillin all the way up till we sell, our numbers will be down from guys that don't have dermatitis as far as the bacteria, the fungi. Then I'm guessing on the cattle manure, I'm guessing it's all probably dry manure, ain't it? The cattle.
You can get wet or dry. I actually got a place that I can get drier manure, and this might sound stupid, but I spread 3 ton of it with my chicken litter spreader so that I'm not just totally changing the structure of my soil and biology out there. And there's some fields that I'm just going to do that every year for a few years. But it's dry enough I can get it through my chicken litter spreader and do a good job.
So do they run a bedding in there, or is it just just manure?
It's just manure.
So it's just manure.
This is actually dry enough. It's like dirt in a pile.
Okay.
We'll test out like a 20-20-20.
Okay. What's so there probably ain't much carbon in that then, is there? In a ton.
No, no.
So I'm just kind of wondering if that, I'm not second guessing anything that Cassie them saying because she's got a PhD, but I'm just sitting here thinking of the gallons of humics that we run and the amount of carbon that we put on per ton from our or per acre from our turkey barns. It would, I mean, it would be hard for me to believe that you're over applying carbon. I mean, just going by what we put down, because say even though we're just spreading 2 ton an acre, out of that 2 ton, there's 3,000 pounds of it that's wood shavings, from our bedding. So, and that's been, I've had the turkey houses for 17 years. And then before we got back into birds, we were getting turkey litter from a neighbor that was using the same shavings. And then we had chickens before that, which, the chickens didn't have litter, but, we got some farms that's had turkey manure with wood shavings for 35 years, putting that down. So, and back then they were spreading with a box spreader, so they were putting 10 to 12 ton an acre. So you were getting, probably 8 to 9 tons of carbon per acre per year. So I'm not saying that they're wrong, but it'd be really hard to, just as a carbon source, be hard for me to believe that it's too
Kevin,
much carbon.
Me too.
it'd be interesting for you to go out in that field across there that you haven't been spread manure on there by the turkey facility there, the feed mill, and get tests on
Yeah.
that field also. Because that
Oh
hadn't had
yeah,
anything.
I could do that. That ain't
Yeah.
had anything on it for 22 years now.
Yeah, that would be and he's been growing corn with with his tuber or well with the rest of the program there. So that might be a fun field to test from.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Dale, I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. I mean, they're smarter than me, but I'm just thinking of the amount of tons of carbon that we've applied over the years. I mean, there's a lot of carbon been put out. That's all I could say over the years.
Yeah, I agree. I just I haven't got them to understand that side of my equation yet. So okay.
And I'm guessing you got manure analysis, don't you, on that? All the way detailed, all the way down, Dale?
Yeah, I sample the cow manure when I get it. Yeah, and it's in the pile. Yeah,
If you got one, shoot me a text with it. I'd just be curious to see what's all in it, what the values are, and does it go down to the salt? Does it
yep,
say salt in it too?
should.
Excuse me. Yeah.
I toyed with running a bee crop on it just for fun, but
Okay. Yeah, that would
I
work.
I have a ton of bee crops around here, and yeah, so
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it just, the carbon thing, it's just really hard for me to believe that there's too much. Um, I mean, if that would be the case, you think, guys around here would be running into it. I mean, um, because I mean, that's most guys or a lot of guys. That's all we spread. Is turkey litter for years and years and years with wood shavings for the carbon. With a lot of carbon. So, but yeah, yeah. Shoot me a text there with that if you don't mind. Whenever you got time. What else we got, guys?
Well, okay.
Oh, Bo, are you still on there? Aren't you using a lot of cattle manure? I don't know if he's still on or not.
Yeah, he's on.
Is he? But he's a big cattle manure user, so I don't know how his biology's stacking up out there.
Hey guys, yeah, finally got off muted. Yeah, I've been using manures, cattle manures from feedlot, probably 30 plus years anyways on our farm. And I'd say my biology is probably better than most around. We're a heavy tilled area, but it's still, I'd say it's still not ideal. So, and I probably apply 40 ton an acre once or every 5 years. And it's mostly for alfalfa hay that I'm removing a lot of nutrition. So I'm front loading in front of alfalfa hay, put alfalfa hay for about 3 years, and then rotate into corn, wheat, peas with that, and then back to alfalfa hay again. So,
Have you run any biology checks on your ground with manure?
Yes.
Manure?
Actually, no. I don't have any without, because basically I put it on all my ground, and most ground around our area has it. The only comparison I guess close I could get would be with potatoes and fumigating our ground. That is what was been really hard on it for, I'm going to say 30 years. Our ground we used to lease it out for potato production or onions once every 5 years, and it would get a heavy fumigation on it. I stopped that probably 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was the last time I had any ground fumigated, and it's changing the way we look at our soils. Like say back then we looked at soils as just a median to grow in, and now we're looking at it as being alive, and changing how we're doing things. So I got 3 years of beet crop tests on my 8 different fields that I've taken since I started here in the MACC program. And then like last year I got sent them to the Regen Ag Labs and got total nutrient digestion and Henny test. And those were the probably the most interesting or useful information that I've gotten so far, more than the beet crop tests, that total nutrient digestion. I'd say I was hoping to get turned in here for you guys, kind of to share with you guys on it. Maybe next session or whatever, I'll get it done. But looking at that total nutrient digestion is just crazy to look at what's in our soil bank, and how do we capture that? Because basically I've seen I've gone to foliar feeding my crops the last, call it 3 years, trying that. Even though I got a manure program on it, my soils are getting better with less inputs, and it's showing it. After I get 3-4 years of data, I'll feel more consistent about what I'm saying. But I know my organic matter is coming up, my potassium, phosphorus, and even the surprising one is the nitrogen levels, where I've gone to, on my corn, going to say 22 to 40 pounds of applied nitrogen in the last 3 years, and my nitrogen levels are staying the same. And the one question is, when you look at that total nutrient digestion analysis and see that huge value of nitrogen, I just wonder how you can dive into that and get a better understanding of, when I look at some of these samples saying I have say 15,000 to say 17,000 pounds of or no, that was our carbon on the nitrogen, but the nitrogen, say 1,700 pounds. Some of these 1,700 pounds of available nitrogen, and it's like, man, how do we test that different to get a better understanding of what can be converted to available? Because, like I say, what I've done with the foliar does not make sense on cutting back. Just
those dirty.
Just cutting back way back. That why it's the plants are still finding nitrogen, even though I'm not putting it on. And when I see that total nutrient digestion test and saying I have 1,500 to 1,700 pounds, is there something there that we're tapping into? That's or there is something there. I just don't understand it, the link on it yet. and hopefully maybe somebody or kind of explain those a little better next time. I don't know. Does any of you guys got a better understanding of that on that nitrogen number on the total nutrient digestion analysis report from Regen Ag Labs on how to break that down and what is it testing?
I'm sorry, I don't really. I should know a little bit more about it, but I truly don't. I can't answer that.
If you'll send me
You know,
those,
Bo, I may,
I'll get out to look at them and come on and describe it.
Okay, I'll work on getting some of those sent to you, but even is it Eric Sweezy? You know, his I was kind of just peeking at his numbers too. You know, and it shows the same where you see some of these sky high numbers on these total nutrient digestion, and it's piquing my interest when I say I put so little nitrogen on, yet it's I can say my crops are doing fine. And then even when I've gone to SAP analysis, the ammoniacal nitrate numbers will be call it next to 0, but that total nitrogen number on a SAP will be in that call it 1400 to 1600 parts per million, and that's the trigger number. As long as that's staying up there above 1400 parts per million, I'm good. And visually, the crop looks good too. It's not showing visual symptoms, and so those two numbers, I mean, they kind of match up and say, okay, things are fine without applying this synthetic nitrogen, or I am applying some, but it's just very, very little. And it kind of say it intrigues me with Kevin keeps saying he keeps dropping and yields are maintaining or even getting better. And that's what I know Kevin's onto something and trying to figure out, because he's got the yields to go along with it. I don't have the call it the 350 plus bushel yields to go with that, but I know there's room for it, and to find that happy medium. And I think he's spot on cutting that nitrogen number way back, and it's allowing more input of all the micros and the other, and getting that balance and understanding the balance, and that's what I'm trying to understand too here. So,
hey, Bo, on YouTube, Rick Mulvaney, I believe out of University of Illinois,
yes,
had a good recording on nitrogen and the fallacy of nitrogen and potassium.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was really quite amazing. And, you know, most of us think about on a test where we see our nitrate and our ammonium numbers on a typical test.
Yep.
Well, what they were doing is measuring something other than that, the organic nitrogen, like the proteins, the amino acids, things in the soil that we don't think about, but they release nitrogen. Yep. And then they did several tests over time, many tests over time, without applying nitrogen, with very little nitrogen, and still raising a very good crop, like you're talking about, with very little inputs. And I think that's where they dove down and figured out that, wow, there's a lot more in our soils than just what we've been measuring. And the lipids come into play also when they start doing that deep dive. But that's a Mulvaney, and I forget who the other one is. I can look that up and get that. But it's fascinating conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I listened to some of the his stuff years ago, and that led me down this call it soil health deal, where I changed my philosophy on I go back to the old, call it the moron theory of high yields and struggle with and kind of capping out, and then I went, call it, I'm gonna say, do a whole 180 and went to next to nothing. But the reality is my yields didn't drop a whole lot when I went from 250 to 350 pounds applied nitrogen to call it 20 to 30 pounds. My yields are within 10 bushel. I mean, my farm average is still maintaining 260, 270 farm average. But even like this year, I had one field that did 310 bushel. But the difference was I had soil tilt and I had lots of earthworms that showed up in the last couple of years. And I think it's making everything available, the earthworms. So for my simple brain or whatever, if I can see earthworms, I think things are right. And I laughed because Kevin mentioned the same thing. He says, I want to see it. Something physical, and he's mentioned many times that if there's earthworms there, or you can physically see the soil tilt of the structure, something's right. Yeah. All these other tests, I mean, it'd be nice for them to show us something on these numbers that we're changing, these bacterial to fungal ratios, all this other stuff, but I can't get a correlation with these beet crop tests. But it goes back to the basics and the simple things of what you can see and feel and sit out in the field, and that means more than anything.
And what it smells like, the soil.
Oh yeah,
Huge
yep.
difference.
I mean, we've used this analogy a bunch too, but you walk out in the woods and you see that great big tree. How many pounds of fertilizer was ever put out there? We got an oak tree going down into our river bottom there. I bet it's 7 feet on the post or on the stump. And I know in the last 35 years I've never fertilized it. But just think about the nutritional pull it's pulling. In broad summer, when it's hot, got the green leaves out. I'm not saying that we can ever go away from commercial fertilizer, but nature is amazing how it does it. That's all I can say, just bottom line. And that's kind of what we want to do. I'm not saying that we'll ever get away from, like I said, my nutrients have dropped down, but my zinc and boron and manganese are still, I'm not changed that in the last 5 years, the amount of those nutrients that we have to use to get to the levels that I want. But the nitrogen, like I said, it's we're dropping and dropping and dropping, and I'm sure we're eventually going to get to a spot where we're going to go backwards on yield, but I don't know what that number is going to be yet to where we hit that bottom line.
Bo, do you have tissue samples where you was only applying that 20 pounds of nitrogen?
I don't have tissue, but I got sap analysis. I switched to the sap or whatever, just and it was basically because to try to get that quicker reading on that nitrogen number. It's that total nitrogen number that I was going after. But yes, I got 2 or 3 years data of sap analysis on those with those low numbers. And I think I pulled 8 different fields with sap this year too. Anyways, and like I say, the yields were from 210 to 310 bushel, and the 210 was visual. I could physically see that. I knew I had a problem there, and I let it go. I played with some things on this little field, and I left a pass out that I didn't spray for the herbicides for weeds diagonal across the field to see what it did. And I'm going to say it's probably call it a problem field, but just wanted to see what would happen if we don't do much inputs or do anything. What was the cost? And it was amazing. And it was good and bad. I mean, where I didn't have high weed pressure, there was absolute zero yield difference at all on there, or you could see anything. And but where there was a weed pressure, oh yes, it kicked its ass. But I was hoping maybe to see something where there was very little weed pressure, that maybe there'd be a yield bump, but I didn't see that. So, and it's the whole glyphosate deal. Everybody complaining how it's tying up manganese and causing 10 other problems than what good it's doing. And so it's like sometimes you're just gonna try it and see what if I just cut it out, and is there really a benefit to it? But at the same time, when I'm throwing glyphosate on, I'm throwing manganese in with it too. So just as insurance, and I'm always low on manganese. I always, so I throw it in anywhere I can. So.
Well, Bo, I'm kind of glad you didn't see much of a difference. I'd hate to go back to farming with cultivators and hose.
Oh no, I agree. It is the easy button, but at the same time, if the consumers will pay us to not utilize it, I'd like to figure out how to be on the forefront of that too, and be ahead of the game. So if there was another way to do it, I could easily do it and not be worried.
Yeah.
I always ask Bo to talk because I always like what he says. So hope you guys agree with me.
No, but I go back. The original question about the manure. Manure has been the key to my farm from the beginning. We got, like say, parents bought a dilapidated feedlot here that was just call it basically just a big pile of shit. and nobody wanted it back then. But that was been our key to growing alfalfa, hay, and corn. And we're competing with, like say, potatoes, onions, high-end crops. But the manure has been the key where and I think it's that balanced nutrition that comes with animal manures that you naturally get. And as long as we're not overdoing it, as long as we're spreading over enough acres and not overloading, I think that's been the ticket here. But on the same aspect, the higher my levels with manure, my higher my yields are with alfalfa hay. I mean, alfalfa hay, there's a direct correlation with if I front load lots of manure in front of the hay, it will pump out yield. So there's that direct correlation. So yeah, but manures have been key. And then to get my soils to, I call it, like say, especially in the old days with the potatoes and fumigation, to recover that ground quick, we would typically apply 20 to 40 ton of raw manure behind the potatoes, and then get that ground turned around again. And it would come around, and we would start seeing earthworms in that 4th and 5th year, right before the potatoes come back again, and then they fumigate and till it out, and it's and we start over again. So,
are you full tillage out there?
Typically, yes. I still plow a little, but nowhere like I used to. The last few years I've gone, I call it reduced tillage. I'm trying to strip till as much as possible. And it goes back to the old save myself rich theory, where if I can save $100, $150 on tillage, I'm going to do it, because of the cost of labor and machinery. I mean, labor for us is we pay overtime now too, so we're averaging $30 an hour for farm hand labor. I call it low skill labor. Is averaging about $30 an hour, and so we're trying to do more with less people. And but the reality, once we've gone that way with the strip till, we're finding our yields aren't that far off. They're not quite as pretty as the plow, but our yields aren't that far off. But if I can save $100, $150 on tillage, and then same with my fertility program, cutting it back, I can grow corn. I can grow 30 to 40 bushel less corn and have a better ROI. And but at the same time, my better fields are producing the same or better yields with this program. My poor fields are going to take a little more work. So, but I have reduced my tillage a lot the last few years, and then trying to bring in cover crops and some of this, playing with, and I've got cattle too, so I'm utilizing cattle grazing on the corn stalks, and then so if I put a cover crop like a triticale, or I've been using biennial rye and some other mixes, I'm using them for grazing crops too. So I'm putting cattle on, so it's not so much green manure, but trying to run cattle through on them. So. But our area is extreme heavy tillage everywhere, for a lot of vegetable seed crops, potatoes, onions, pretty much everything gets tilled around here.
Okay.
Thank you, Bo.
Yeah.
Thanks. I see Cole Viss is on up there in Minnesota. Cole, how you been getting along with with the program on your farm? Oh, they turn his mic on.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's some things that we've been happy with, I guess, and there's some things that we still can't get to work 100%. We're happy with the carbon and sugar. I think that's the way to go all the time. But I guess our biggest frustration is we cannot get potassium into the plant at all, and we're high mag. And I don't know, it seems like everyone you talk to, it seems like the high mag is the problem. But yeah, we've tried different forms of liquid and dry. This fall we strip tilled in some potassium sulfate in strip till, hoping maybe that will help some, but
okay. Are you ready?
So, potassium, always a pain in the ass.
Tissue test, you got any of them available? Send them in next month.
Yep, I can send some stuff in. Yeah.
We'd like to see it from some of you guys.
So Kevin, on do you account for your litter at all for nitrogen?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how to answer that. So when we spread our manure, it's in the fall, preferably right after we get done harvesting the field, we try to get somebody out there to start spreading. So the manure is so, how do I say this? One year seems like you'll get, you'll get 20, 30 pounds out of it. And the next year you won't get any because of the weather. If we're really wet, wet spring, wet winter, the nitrogen's gone, just the way it is. And that's another reason I like the tissue samples is, any nitrogen that we get, if it shows up that we're getting it, it's going into the plant. And if it's, it goes into our range that we want to be at. So, but to sit there and say no, that I say, well, I'm getting 30 pounds or 50 pounds of nitrogen out of my litter. No, I don't say that just because it's too variable. Now, if you put it on in the springtime, that would be a little bit different. You could, your odds are you're going to get that. But I just hate banking on, sitting there thinking that, well, I should have enough out there. I got, with the manure, I should have 250 pounds out there. But, if it don't rain or you get too wet, it's not stable enough, I should say. We can't get a year in and year out exact amount that we're getting out of it.
So we're buying our litter and they're guaranteeing us an analysis of like 65 pounds out of what they spread.
Yeah.
Is that,
yeah,
I mean,
I understand. Yeah, I mean, like that's per ton, that's right in that ball range where we're at, per ton. But the problem is that if you spread it in the fall, it goes through all the weather. You got some of that ammonia form, which it's gone. As soon as it gets wet,
Yep.
it's gone. So that's why I'm saying it'd be a little different. You could, if you had irrigation and spread it in the, right before you planted. I would say I would count for, if you're saying say you put 2 ton out there, it says 130 pounds. I would say, yeah, you could probably be pretty generous of saying you got 50 to 60 pounds out of it with irrigation where, if it does get dry, you can still get it in the solution with water. But, the analysis can say that, but the problem is that they're, when you want it, that's the problem.
Yep. How long into the season do you think it takes to really break most of it down? You have any idea or?
Well, tell me what kind of year you got.
Right. But
so like us, the problem, some of the guys around here still spread in the spring. Most guys have went to spreading in the fall and into the winter. But I'm just saying, our biggest problem is normally we are, we could have like April, we could get 20 inches of rain real easy. So if you just spread it in March, I'm going to say you got 0 there. That's so. That's going to depend on how much moisture you got.
Yeah,
and
well, like
with
this,
you, you guys being up further north, it's just like anhydrous. The colder it is, the more you're going to keep. But moisture is going to be your biggest pain in the ass for you.
right.
Leach it.
So like this last year, we think we lost some yield on some of the litter fields because we were maybe accounting for too much. We had a really warm winter last, not a lot of snow, and it was pretty warm, and we're thinking we lost more than normal.
Probably did.
Because our commercial end fields were better as a whole, and that's because it was all spring and summer applied rather than fall applied, the litter, I guess. But
makes sense. Yeah, I mean, so, and how many years you been pulling tissue samples?
2018. since
Okay.
2018.
So what you kind of, or like what we did when we got started, we just kind of matched our average tissue samples going across the board, and um, and correlated those numbers to yield. So that's why I'm saying if it drops down, that's when we come back in with the Y drops. But since we quit spreading manure in the spring, our nitrogen numbers have not really changed. It ain't like where I go out and change like 5 gallons per field to field. We've kind of had more of a, not saying super consistent, but it has been a little bit more consistent numbers on the nitrogen since we've been spreading in the fall. So, but basically, what I'm saying is, we're always at zero. That's what I'm saying, I guess.
Yep.
Now, incorporating it would help. You're going to keep it in there a little bit longer, but the problem is if you're saturated, you're saturated.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah. We always have the litter spread. I mean, like in November, and it gets tilled in usually, and then it freezes up within a couple weeks probably. And yeah.
Well, as long as it don't stay wet, where it's like I said, super slopping wet, you're getting some just because you're cooler weather up there longer. But
Yep.
to sit there and say, if I look at your manure analysis and say, well, yeah, you're getting 50 pounds out of it. Well, whoever tells you that is an idiot, because you you have no idea what was left from the your leaching from your winter weather. I mean, that's what I'm saying. The guys that in the spring around here that says, well, I'm cutting back. We put 4 or 5 ton out there of chicken litter that normally has a little bit more nitrogen than what our turkey litter does. And I'm like, dude, you're putting it in a river bottom. The river's, even though you worked it in, but the river's been underwater for 6 straight weeks. You tell me how much is left. There's nothing left of the nitrogen. You know what I'm saying? So
what do you think of pre-side dress nitrate test then? Is that kind of like stock nitrate test where you can't really trust it, or?
I don't. I mean, like I said, we've talked a little bit about it. I'm just the stock nitrates. I get different. I've not had enough stock nitrates to correlate the yield that has been accurate. Like I said, I've had low ones with being high, high yield and high nitrates, which you sit there and you think about, well, you got high nitrate, you should have a lot of nitrogen in the plant. Well, the problem is it's not going to the ear. Ear leaves are mostly stuck in the stalk. It's not translocating very good. So yeah, I'm not, I'm old school. I got to see what's on the tissue samples, and I mean, you take, like when we used to chop silage, we did nitrate tests all the time on the silage, and like I said, we go through a drought where I'm talking 35 years ago. They would get tests back and would show 1,000, and we would chop always normally our hills or the weaker corn. Well, if we took it to yield, that field probably didn't make 100 bushel. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just not.
So what about pre-side dress soil tests then? Nitrate soil test before you side dress. We're trying to figure out, how much you can account for in the litter, in the manure or whatever, because we get hog manure too, and it's hard to sometimes know how much you should be applying. But we've got.
Well, I say this: you got Y drops?
Yes.
I make your adjustment off what your tissue samples say. I mean, the plant is going to tell you what's available and what's not, what's actually going into the plant.
Yep.
So I mean, it's hard to, that's the discussion we've had pretty well all day today, or when we've been talking about it. Just because it's in the soil don't mean it's getting into the plant.
Right.
So at least when you pull a tissue sample, and that's what I'm saying, if you got a yield goal, so let's say if you're making 2 Y drops, and I'm just throwing numbers out. So let's say the last 5 years you've been pulling soil or tissue samples at, say your last Y drop is going to be at V10, and say you're at V8, and that tissue sample showed a 3.4 on your nitrogen, and the 5 previous years you grew 250 bushel corn and your tissue samples were at 3.8 at that time, then that would tell me, and that's the problem, it's going to take a year or two to get a baseline of knowing how much of commercial fertilizer lasts through the year. But if you put an extra 15 gallon on, and that brought you back up to you're at V10 then, and you're carrying the same tissue sample there, I would say, well, it's hard to explain, but that's how I adjust. Whatever my tissue samples, I take zero fertility on my crop from what's in the soil. Because like I said, I got pretty fertile soil, but the problem is it's not getting all into the plant. And I've lost, when I was first starting out, I was fertilizing, I guess, from what my soil samples were saying. And lo and behold, I was missing out on 25 to 30 bushel because I was going by what my soil samples were saying that was available to the plant. It just never became available. So, I mean, everything we do, and that's why I'm hoping you guys get to that point, that it takes the guessing out once you get that chart of where your levels at each growth stage, you're trying to get to, and you adjust your fertility to what those levels need to be at, or whatever your goals are. And it will take you, a year or two to know that, if you're trying to gain a half a point on your tissue sample on a certain nutrient or whatever it is, it's going to take you a year or two to know, fine tune how many gallons of that certain nutrient it is to get to that point. I mean, it's tough to explain, but I don't account to any of my fertility on the soil. It's whatever I fertilize 100% to whatever my tissue samples say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what I'm saying is the hardest thing is going to be for you to find out exactly what it takes of each nutrient to move your tissue sample or to maintain. And then you can go back and correlate that to yield. And then after about 2 or 3 years, I mean, there's zero guessing. I mean, I could pull up any of my tissue samples and know exactly to the gallon how many I'm going to put for my yield goals. That's what's pretty neat. There's, I'm not guessing anymore. I mean, I just look it up, say, well, I'm at a 3.8 and, I want to be at a 4.2. I'm normally at this time, I'm normally at a 4.2, so I'm behind. Well, I may have to add another 5 gallon to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. You can get, I don't know, we just struggle to get stuff to respond sometimes. It seems like you can put however much on, and that's probably soil issues, but.
Well, so we have, I mean, believe me, I have troubles once that corn hits that rapid growth. I can't unless it's a micronutrient, like the N, P, and K, nitrogen, I can sometimes get it to raise. Once I get, V12, V14, I can get it to raise. But my P and K, I very seldom ever get it to raise after that stage. So that's why I'm saying it's always, especially the P and K, it's pretty important to get your numbers up kind of as high as you can, because they are such a pain in the ass to get a response to bring those numbers up. Once you get behind on them, it just seems like you're you're fighting a losing battle.
So what do you think then about us up here? I know you don't want to run fertility in furrow, but running like a P and K more in furrow to try get those numbers up right away.
I think that's going to backfire.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just, because, I said normally we don't see a response, really until, we run in furrow, we run 2x2, but really when it makes that transition, so you're talking, that corn is pushing that V4, V5, truly that V5 where it's really starting to pick up. I just seen, I'm just guessing, even with the warmer weather we have where the biology kicks in a little bit quicker, we see more biology in the trench where we pulled the fertility out of the infurrow. As far as like P and K, I think it affects your rhizobia, all that bacteria and fungi. I think that the phosphorus, and I don't know if it's a little bit of salt in it or what, but we used to run, it in like the 924-3 in furrow. And, we pulled it out, for 2 years doing check strips. Every time we did check strips, we seen a yield gain by pulling it out. And I think it's just due to root mass. We don't have where we run our in furrow with a fertility like a 924-3, 829-2. It just seems like the root mass was not as big and we didn't have as much fibrous roots on that where we ran our in furrow.
Yep. Yep. But we're just getting, we can't get potassium in, and we feel like that's our limiting factor.
Well,
trying to figure out, is there a way to farm around it a little bit until we get these soils going?
Well, I think, you guys up there, Minnesota, with the heavier soils, you need to be running more fulvics instead of humic. I mean, you still run a little bit of humic to buffing the salts that you're putting with your 28 or 32, whatever you're running. But the heavier the soil, you need to be running more fulvic in your 2x2, or well, really with any kind of fertility, especially your heavier soils. Plus, I'm guessing heavy mag. You got a lot of magnesium. So, I think fulvics are going to be your buddy. And
so then are you willing to pull back on like the humic and sugar and spend the same amount of money and then spend it on fulvic instead?
So I wouldn't cut on the sugars.
Okay.
But whatever you're spending your money on, your bottom line, don't spend more to buy fulvic. So just cut back on your humic, transfer those dollars into, instead of running like us, we run fulvic in furrow, and then we run humics 2x2, and then we run a fulvic and a humic and a fulvic and humic for the last two. You guys need to be running, probably a quart, maybe two. I don't know how many gallons are you running on your 2x2?
Just 10 gallons usually. Of 28.
Well, how much humics?
Well, last year we did 3/4 gallon of humic, 3/4 of sugar, and then no fulvic, but we're debating this year on going to 1/2 gallon of sugar, 1/2 humic, and then a quart of fulvic. That would be roughly spending the same. But
now say that again. I'm sorry.
So 1/2 gallon humic, 1/2 gallon sugar, and then a quart of fulvic.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And then on your Y drops, I would flip-flop it. I would run a quart of humic and then the rest on fulvic.
Okay, you'd run higher rate on Y drop.
Yeah. And there's a reason. One is, you have a shorter growing season than what we do. So you're going to have to try to drive those nutrients into that plant a little bit quicker than what a humic's going to do for you. So,
Yep.
So that's what I would try.
Okay. Yeah, that was, we kind of were thinking that shifting more to the fulvic side, but
Yeah. You were thinking right.
We got Jay from Kansas City. I think he wanted to talk to you a little bit, Kevin. Get him. There he is.
Oh, yeah, good. Hey, Kevin. My question is, you've talked a lot about having, magnesium problems, and our soil has high magnesium, and high iron. And my Monty's rep Bernie had brought up using biointerhume in the furrow to kind of help with the problem, on the short term. Do you have any experience with using that in the furrow, or?
I hate to say this, but I'm not familiar with that product. Joe, you're gonna have to chime in on this.
Yeah, I haven't introduced you to that yet. We might try some this year.
What do you say?
Yeah, I think he said that you should try some this year. I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
Is that what you said, Joe?
Yeah, I'm gonna get you to try some this year. Yes.
Yeah.
We've used the nanobind on some high salt ground, and it worked amazing. It changed things like in one season. We saw on soybeans probably 20 bushel yield difference by using it. And I was just wondering if you had any, if you're familiar with the other products, or anything else you can do with high iron ground to help, on the short term.
Well, just for the high iron, what is high? What are you talking high?
Let me look at my soil samples here.
Humics are going to be, they're going to help on that too. So does that product have a lot of humic in with it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. On the iron, we're in the 80s on a lot of the ground.
Yeah, that's a little high. Not horrific, but humics I know is gonna help on that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Jay. Anybody else got anything? This warm weather must have everybody quiet.
Well, I'll chime in then.
You're in cold weather.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we freeze to death before we melt. So, we're gonna put a grain bin up here this summer. Does anybody have any good advice or good experiences with like the cable monitoring or the CO2 sensors? We have some on some of the bins we have, but that's 10 years ago. So it's like, what's new and improved, or anything like that?
I don't know. It just sounds like a problem being with MACC. You got to put up a new bin.
Any discounts for Brock?
We could probably.
What about that company you got?
AGI.
Yeah.
You got any AGI guys over? Builders
like
in your way? Huh?
The grain pump we're getting to connect all these bends to dry is a Hutchinson AGI.
Okay.
Might get 50%.
Did you buy the bin yet?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, I'm glad you brought that up. We need to. I need to talk to these AGI guys about maybe kind of partnering up with MACC to try to get some. Huh?
I haven't wrote a check or paid for anything yet. We did it on Friday because it's like, discounts.
Well, hold off on it then. I'll see how big a bin is it?
It'd be 98,000.
98,000.
It might be into that.
Well, Travis, let me talk to them. Maybe we could get AGI in on this, so maybe we can get you guys, whoever wants to buy anything, a bin or whatever, whoever through the group, maybe they can get you a deal on it. So don't cut a check yet to Brock yet.
Okay. Well, even if it's just on some of our grain pump, that's fine by us. You know, anything helps. So,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah, nah, we're going full hog on the dry and the wet corn, and it's you got to have storage on it, and like us hauling it into our local ethanol plant during harvest is a mess. And like, well, I don't know. You're gonna do it. It's no matter. There's never a great time to do it unless you're on the very precipice of $7 corn again, and I doubt that's gonna happen this year. But you never know, I guess. But
Well, yeah, but I'll see if I can find something out this week yet.
okay.
Get them to see if they can do that. I'm glad you brought that up. That would be a good thing. Get them, one of those companies to get with MACC here to kind of get some deals out for farmers.
Yeah, they're going to be hurting too. I don't think they're probably behind schedule this year.
Yeah. So, anything else, guys?
As far as cables, Taylor, you got anything in that new bin? As far as moisture cables, is he still on here?
He's gone.
Is he gone? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, rest of us just do guessing, I guess. All right.
Well, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, we haven't exactly set the March meetings yet, so we'll get with you guys pretty soon here for those. Farm Machinery Show, I think Concept and Monty's both have booths down there. Kevin and I'll be mingling around down there, Wednesday, Thursday, probably for you? Friday?
Yeah, I think Wednesday I'll be there.
Yeah. Now, if you mentioned to the group, this group last month, were you going to be at Nebraska and when?
Oh, I haven't talked to that guy. Let me look here.
I don't remember when it was, but Dale didn't want to come because he didn't want to come to a decal meeting.
Well, it is kind of a decal meeting, I guess.
Dale, you could come in and cause some action.
It's the 26th and 27th. One of them's at York, and I can't think of the other one. Hang on. The 26th will be at York, Nebraska, and the 27th will be at Norfolk.
That's a February, right?
Yep.
So if any of you want to buy Kevin a beer, he'd probably gladly accept it.
Damn right I would.
Get him a Bud Light.
Oh, Terry.
Oh. All right. Anybody else got anything at all?
Are you guys doing anything for the Commodity Classic, like another room or get together or like last year Terry is supposed to pay for all of our
I did. It didn't cost you anything at all, did it?
No, it did. But
yeah, we're still working that out right now. What it's going to be? We're thinking kind of a breakfast thing. Terry's going to cook some biscuits and gravy, and
I was going to cook eggs, but there won't be any by then.
But yeah, we'll get with you on that. But we're thinking of breakfast again.
Okay.
So
my parents are going. We don't get to go this year, but I was just
okay.
curious.
Yeah. We'll send out an email and let you guys know what's going on. But yeah, we'll have a little bit more information probably into this week on that. So.
All right. Joe, you gonna pull the plug on us?
Yeah. Ready.
All right.
All righty, fellas. Be careful.
Yeah, thanks a lot for attending. Yeah.
See you later.
All right, bye.